Chapter 55. In the drawing room, the old man stroked his white beard, his face flushed with success. "There's one more thing that I need you to help me with." Yun Luofeng's lips curled into an evil smile. "Since you've returned your 1,000,000 troops to that dog emperor, now our Yun family needs to establish our own power." The old man was silent for a moment. "Feng-er, you need to think this through. We need to recruit people to establish our power. This will cause too much of a commotion and it may arouse the emperor's fear. At that time, if the royal family oppresses us, our Yun family will not be able to rise again in our current situation." "Grandfather, I've already thought about this." A light flashed across his black eyes and the smile on Yun Luofeng's lips deepened. "Not long ago, I beat up Mu Shen on the streets and my reputation as a hedonist has already spread. Since that's the case, why don't I be a hedonist even more thoroughly? You can tell others that I threw a tantrum at home and forced you to recruit 100 guards and 100 maids for me. As for this recruitment, you can ask that dog emperor to help you complete it." The old man was stunned and said hesitantly, "Feng-er, that's not very good, is it? You want to recruit people to establish an army that belongs to our Yun family. If you ask the royal family to help you with this, with his wariness, he will definitely choose some people with low talent. I don't care about the talent of those people, as long as their bodies are not flawed and they are under the age of 18. It didn't matter if they were low talent. She had the divine encyclopedia of medicine. No matter how stupid they were, she had a way to improve their talent. Feng-er, there's one more thing that you haven't considered? If you ask the emperor to recruit people for you and he sends in spies, then everything you've done will be known to him." Faced with Yun Luofeng's question, Yun Luofeng smiled. His eyes were full of confidence. "As long as he dares to send in spies, I dare to take in spies. As long as he dares to send in spies, I dare to take in spies." How much confidence did she have to be able to say such arrogant and unruly words? Yun Luofeng sighed. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he really didn't understand his granddaughter at all. "Feng-er, I'll enter the palace in a moment and ask the people in the palace to help me recruit people." "All right." Yun Luofeng blinked his eyes. "Grandfather, when you meet the emperor later, don't forget to blackmail him. Everyone says that the Yun family's fortune was squandered away by me. So go and prove this rumor." The old man was speechless. This was probably why Yun Luofeng wanted the people from the palace to help her recruit people. There was no time to lose. Yun Luo didn't stay any longer. After changing into his court attire, he quickly got someone to prepare a sedan chair and hurriedly set off for the palace. When he entered the imperial study, he discovered that other than Emperor Gao Tu, even the crown prince was present. A look of hesitation appeared on his face, but his expression quickly changed. Compared to the radiant look he had when he was in the general's residence, the current him seemed a bit dispirited. "Old general, why have you come to see me?" When Gao Tu saw Yun Luo's expression, he sneered in his heart. He didn't even need to think to know that Yun Luofeng had caused trouble again. "Your Imperial Majesty." Yun Luo knelt on the ground with a thud. His elderly figure seemed thin and frail. "My granddaughter thinks that there are too few servants in the general's residence and that it doesn't suit her status as the eldest Mississippi. Thus, she asked me to help her recruit 100 guards and 100 servant girls. But I'm already old. How can I work so hard? So I've come to ask for your Imperial Majesty's help." Chapter 56. A sense of astonishment flashed across Gao Tu's eyes, but it was more of a sense of schadenfreude. "General, you have made countless contributions. As your granddaughter, Yun Luofeng should naturally enjoy a grandeur that surpasses that of the imperial princes. Therefore, we have sent His Highness the Crown Prince to help you recruit people." "Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty, for your great kindness. I have one more request for Your Imperial Majesty's help." Yun Luo raised his elderly features and his face was filled with exasperation. "Your Imperial Majesty, you must have heard that my granddaughter has recently become obsessed with the art of medicine. For this reason, I have spent all of the general's money on medicinal herbs. Therefore, my residence cannot afford to support so many people. I wonder if Your Imperial Majesty would be willing to pay for their monthly allowance?" Of course. Gao Tu's face lit up with a smile. By then, the guards and maids of the Yun residence will be paid by the imperial palace every month. Treat it as a reward for your meritorious service. "Thank you, Your Imperial Majesty. I shall take my leave." Yun Luo crawled to his feet, joined his fists, and walked out of the study. At this moment, No one noticed that the moment he turned around, his old chrysanthemum-like face had already bloomed into a smile. This pair of father and son could never have imagined that in just a few days, the Yun family would suddenly produce a demonic army. The members of that army had been selected by the crown prince on behalf of the Yun family. Even the money used to support this army had been contributed by them. When they found out about this pair of father and son had nearly died from anger. Imperial Father, what do you think this General Yun Luo is trying to do? Gao Ling furrowed his brows. Could it be that he is secretly recruiting soldiers? Rebelling against the Imperial Palace? If he really wanted to recruit soldiers, he would not have come to the Imperial Palace to report this. He would not have allowed the Imperial family to participate either. Gao Tu laughed icily. That's why I believe that Yun Luofeng is forcing him to do this. Linger, when you help General Yun recruit people, make sure that the people he recruits are of the lowest quality. Gao Ling turned his gaze towards the outside of the study and sighed. Imperial Father, I feel that General Yun's residence has reached its end. First, Yun Luofeng had squandered all of our money and now, she is torturing General Yun. With such a good-for-nothing and hedonistic granddaughter, General Yun Luo's lifespan will probably be shortened. Before long, he'll be angered to death by Yun Luofeng alive. Actually, Gao Ling had some respect for General Yun Luo. Unfortunately, someone like General Yun Luo had managed to raise a good-for-nothing like Yun Luofeng. With Yun Luofeng's existence, how could the general's residence not be defeated? Originally, we wanted Yun Luofeng to be your concubine. But now, it seems that a person like her isn't even fit to be a concubine. As long as Yun Luo dies, she will be useless. Gao Tu's voice was very cold. In comparison, Mu Wushuang from the Mu clan is much better. She is talented, kind, and has the demeanor of a motherly model to the world. Furthermore, she is Jing Lin's disciple. In Long Yuan country, only Mu Wushuang is compatible with you. Gao Ling smirked. Yun Luofeng is a good-for-nothing. He's only there to show off Wushuang's excellence. That's all he's good for. The efficiency of the royal family was indeed different. In just a few days, they had already recruited the people that Yun Luofeng needed. However, when he saw the aptitude of these people, the corners of Yun Luofeng's mouth could not help but twitch. His heart was filled with worry. Based on these people's talents, could they really become great generals that could sweep away thousands of soldiers in the future? Yun Luofeng did not believe this, but he still brought these people back to the general's residence. Chapter 57. At the back of the mountain, a man stood between the trees. His black robe fluttered gently in the breeze. His voice was cold and deep, but it made people feel as if there was a sharp edge on their backs. How is the matter I asked you to investigate? Lin Qiong, who was kneeling in front of him, did not dare to raise her head. She replied stiffly, Master, according to my investigation, Prime Minister Mu has been at odds with the general for more than 10 years. He deliberately leaked information about Miss Yun's parents to the enemy country, which led to the death of her parents. Secondly, the second master of the Yun family, Yun Qingge, was seriously injured. General Yun went to the palace to ask the royal doctor to treat him, but was stopped by Mu Wushuang's master, Jing Lin, which led to Yun Qingge's death. Yun Shao did not speak. However, at this moment, Lin Qiong clearly felt the air around her tighten, and the pressure on her body became much heavier. Thirdly, Lin Qiong swallowed. Miss Yun was originally engaged to the crown prince, but the crown prince was jealous of Mu Wushuang. Not long ago, Mu Wushuang secretly gave the crown prince an idea. This idea was to frame Miss Yun for robbing a handsome man on the street, which led to her losing her reputation and almost her death. However, even the crown prince did not know that this idea was given by Mu Wushuang. He only passed it on to him through someone else's mouth. These are just the 3 main points. These days, I also found out a lot about the Mu family bullying Miss Yun. During this period of time, Lin Qiong finally understood how special Yun Luofeng was to Yun Shao. If she wanted to please her master, she would have to work hard on Yun Luofeng. Hence, she had been very meticulous in her investigations over the past few days. From the grudges between the elders to the humiliation of Yun Luofeng by the Prime Minister's residence, even if it was just a word or a small matter, she would respectfully report it. After reporting everything she had found to Yun Shao, Lin Qiong asked flatteringly, Master, should I destroy Prime Minister Mu's residence? I can also destroy the royal family. Who asked them to join forces to bully Miss Yun? From Yun Zhao's expressionless face, it was difficult for Lin Qiong to read his emotions. However, Lin Qiong could feel that her master was angry. The best proof was that the pressure on his body had become even more intense. Even the air around him seemed to have solidified, making it difficult for him to breathe. Lin Qiong wanted to cry. She was just reporting the news. Did master have to scare her like this? Sure enough, a person who could talk to his master must have a strong psychological endurance. Otherwise, he could scare you to death. She doesn't like people meddling in her affairs. Under Lin Qiong's fear, Yun Xiao finally spoke. His voice was as cold as ever. Revenge. Taking revenge himself was the most satisfying thing. So, it's fine as long as the people from Prime Minister Mu's mansion don't die. However, it did not mean that he was willing to swallow his anger. Lin Qiong was stunned. Did master mean that as long as they were alive, they could do whatever they wanted to the people of the Prime Minister's residence? Yes, this subordinate obeys. Lin Qiong respectfully cupped her fists, and her eyes lit up. This time he must perform well. Who asked those bastards from the Prime Minister's residence to bully the mistress? That was right. In Lin Qiong's eyes, Yun Luofeng was already their future mistress. Otherwise, why would her master conceal her identity and come to the general's mansion, even willingly becoming a guard? The next day, 2 pieces of news spread throughout the entire Long Yuan country. First, Prime Minister Mu's residence was robbed. The missing silver had been stolen by Mu Shen. He had even used the stolen silver to buy a ginseng that was said to be able to prolong one's life. In the end, it was verified that it was just an ordinary ginseng. 45 million taels of silver had been swindled. Chapter 58. Mu Xingqiu was so angry that he beat him up so fiercely that he almost beat him to death. The second piece of news was that the Mu family had been robbed at night. The Mu family's study and treasury had been burned down by a huge fire. All the valuables had been smashed to pieces. Even Mu Xingqiu had been beaten up by the thief. It was estimated that he would not be able to get out of bed for at least 3 months. When Gao Tu heard about this, his royal countenance became furious and he was determined to find the thief. This uproar had caused everyone in the imperial city to feel insecure. The rich and powerful were afraid that the thief would patronize them, while the powerless were afraid of being framed as a thief. However, those people were obviously thinking too much. A thief who could come and go as he pleased in the Prime Minister's residence and cause such a ruckus was certainly not an ordinary person. They would never look for the thief among the ordinary people. However, when these 2 pieces of news reached Yun Luofeng's ears, she raised her brows. Mu Shen did not sell me out? She never thought that Mu Shen would actually keep his promise. Even when he had been beaten half to death, he had not revealed the true whereabouts of the 45 million gold coins. He had even lied about it. There was no such thing as a roaming peddler. It was useless no matter how hard the Prime Minister's residence searched. Furthermore, Mu Xingqiu was currently bedridden. Where would he find the time to look for the roaming peddler that Mu Shen had mentioned? Miss, I really admire the thief who patronized the Prime Minister's residence, Qing Yan said in admiration. Who asked those people to always bully you, miss? This time, that chivalrous thief has helped us vent our anger. You don't need to worship that thief. Yun Luofeng pinched Qing Yan's cheek and smiled evilly. You can worship me. Miss. Qing Yan stomped her foot and pouted coquettishly. However, Miss has indeed changed a lot. Why do those people outside always call Miss a hedonistic child? Miss is clearly not that kind of person. Their mouths are on other people's bodies. They can say whatever they want. Yun Luofeng raised her brows and stood up from the chaise longue. Let's go. Grandfather had already gathered everyone for me yesterday. Now, I should go and take a look at the candidates. There were hundreds of people standing in the courtyard. Half of them were men and women, and they were looking around. When they saw the white-clothed girl walking over, the crowd slowly quietened down. Looks like the royal family is quite efficient. They really are not stingy at all to find a group of people with low aptitudes for me. Yun Luofeng yawned lazily, his demonic eyes sizing up the people standing in the courtyard. The aptitudes of these people were very low, so low that they couldn't be any lower. They were only a little better than the trash Yun Luofeng. If it was someone else, even if they trained for a lifetime, they would not be able to break through to the intermediate spiritualist boundary. He could only spend his entire life crawling at the bottom. Feng'er, Yun Luo laughed bitterly and replied helplessly. These were all personally chosen by the Crown Prince. I followed your wishes and decided that they are all under the age of 18. Grandfather, don't worry. Since I've chosen them, I have my ways. Yun Luofeng raised the corner of his lips devilishly. I'll arrange for these people to stay in my Yun family's stone room. Yun Luo was stunned for a moment. You're saying that before the stone room that second uncle stayed in? He swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue and looked at Yun Luofeng in confusion. Yun Luofeng knew what he wanted to say and nodded. That's right. Arrange for them to stay there. As for what to do next, I'll explain it when the time comes. I'm tired now, so I'll return to the back of the mountain to rest. After saying this, she did not give Yun Luo a chance to ask any more questions and headed towards the back of the mountain. Chapter 59. Back of the Mountain. Yun Luofeng walked into the room and hurriedly closed the door. She walked quickly to the large bed. After she lay down, a white light flashed. When she came back to her senses, she was already standing in the divine grimoire space. What she saw was a cute baby face. At this moment, the baby's expression was very sad. Its big black eyes stared at her with grievance. Master, you only come to see me once every few days. I'm so bored here alone. Yun Luofeng curled his lips and his peerless features lifted into a demonic smile. Xiaomo, I'm here to ask you something. Do you have a way to make sure that no one can enter within 500 meters of the general's mansion? Little Mo's eyes became even more sad. Master, you only come to see me if there's something. If there's nothing, you don't come to see me. Even so, Little Mo was a cheating artifact that answered all of Yun Luofeng's questions. I don't have the method you're talking about. However, if you want to prevent outsiders from finding out about your training, you can ask Milk Tea for help. Milk Tea can help you dig an underground training ground in a few days. When that time comes, no one will notice that you're training the troops there. Yun Luofeng fell silent. The Yun family's stone room was very big, but she had also recruited many people. If they were squeezed in the stone room, they wouldn't be able to train. However, if they were to train in the Yun family's courtyard, it would be easy for others to find out and spread the news. This would be very disadvantageous to the Yun family. Master, the spirit herbs have been successfully cultivated. Feed Milk Tea all of them and it will break through one level. If you want Milk Tea to break through faster, you must prepare more valuable spirit herbs. Little Mo looked at the silent Yun Luofeng and continued. Zhi. Milk Tea could no longer hold back. Her big round eyes looked around and finally landed on the spirit herbs in the medicine field. She almost drooled. Milk Tea is currently a low-level beginner spirit. After breaking through one level, she will become a mid-level beginner spirit. This level of strength is useless to me now. However, the digging speed should be much faster. Yun Luofeng caressed Milk Tea's head. Go, these spirit herbs are all yours. As a condition, I'll leave the underground training ground to you. Zhi. Milk Tea excitedly called out twice. With a xiao sound, she jumped down from Yun Luofeng's arms. She held a spirit herb in her hands and began to gnaw on it. Master, plant the medicinal herbs you bought a few days ago into the medicinal field. According to the current size of the herbal field, you should be able to plant 10 types of medicinal herbs. These 10 herbs happen to be able to concoct 2 kinds of medicinal liquids, namely the spirit gathering liquid and the marrow cleansing liquid. Little Mo blinked his eyes. His voice was as soft as cotton candy. Master, the spirit gathering liquid made from spiritual herbs can be used continuously for a month. Unlike those ordinary medicinal herbs, the effects would be minimal after a day and completely lose their effects after a week. As for the marrow cleansing liquid, it is recorded in the divine canon of medicine. It can improve a person's talent. Even a good-for-nothing can become a genius after using the marrow cleansing liquid frequently. Yun Luofeng had indeed seen the 3 words marrow cleansing fluid in the divine encyclopedia of medicine, and this was also the reason why she had the confidence to nurture those useless people into experts. How many days will it take to cultivate these herbs into elixirs? 15 days. 15 days? Hearing Little Mo's words, Yun Luofeng thought for a while. In that case, I'll use 15 days to control this team of 200 people. Chapter 60. After leaving the Holy Medicine Hall, Yun Luofeng's consciousness returned to her room. She felt a hand gently caressing her cheek, the scorching fingertips causing her to open her eyes abruptly. She quickly grabbed the other party's hand and narrowed her eyes as a dangerous light flashed across them. Yun Xiao, what are you doing? If the other party had not been Yun Xiao but another man, perhaps she would have thrown him out long ago. I want to look at you. The man's eyes stared straight at Yun Luofeng. His clear gaze was like a bolt of lightning that fiercely crashed into Yun Luofeng's heart. This fellow knows nothing about the matters between men and women. How could he have such vulgar thoughts? Clearly, she had been overthinking things. Yun Xiao, Yun Luofeng's expression gradually returned to normal and she smiled lazily. You sneaked in like this, I thought that you wanted to warm my bed. The man looked at Yun Luofeng with sincere and determined eyes. If you're afraid of the cold, I'll warm your bed every day. Yun Luofeng's expression stiffened and she sighed exasperatedly. Yun Xiao, have you ever been in contact with a woman? The man shook his head honestly. What about the servant girls? No. You should have seen erotic pictures, right? Erotic pictures? What's that? The man frowned, clearly not understanding what Yun Luofeng was talking about. Yun Luofeng rubbed her forehead. Then what do you usually do besides cultivating? Kill people. The man's voice was very ordinary, as if killing people was as simple as eating a meal. It was an essential part of his daily life. Yun Luofeng was completely speechless. She never thought that there would be a man on this mainland who had never been in contact with a woman since he was young. Where had he been living all these years? After all, this roaring dragon mainland was not Huaxia. In Huaxia, one could understand the entire world without even stepping out of one's home. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng gently raised the corners of her lips and a demonic smile hung on her peerlessly beautiful face. Someone like you, who knows nothing about the matters between men and women, has never been deceived and deceived by other women? Her heart was filled with curiosity towards Yun Xiao. She wondered how he had survived all these years to become so naive. The man frowned. I'll kill anyone who tries to get close to my woman. He was disgusted by the smell of other women. Any woman who tried to get close to him would be thrown to the wolves. Especially the way they looked at him, it made him feel disgusted. Only Yun Luofeng. Not only did he not feel disgusted by her, he even wanted to get close to her. Mississippi at this moment, Qing Yan hurriedly ran into the room from outside. She said while gasping for breath. His Highness the Crown Prince has sent someone over. He said he wants to see Eldest Miss. Ever since Yun Luofeng moved to the back mountain to live, only Qing Yan and Yun Xiao could come to the back mountain. However, even if it was them, she would not allow second uncle to be exposed in front of their eyes. Crown Prince? Yun Luofeng lazily stretched his waist and walked down from the bed. I want to see why this Crown Prince is looking for me. Yes, Mississippi. Qing Yan giggled as she followed Yun Luofeng out of the door. After the two figures had completely disappeared, Yun Xiao frowned and said coldly, Lin Qiong. Chapter 61. His voice was low and hoarse, but it was mixed with spiritual power. It was loud enough for the person in the dark to hear him. As soon as he finished speaking, a man in a grey robe flew over and landed in front of Yun Xiao. Master, what can I do for you? Yun Xiao was silent for a while, then asked randomly, Have you ever been in contact with a woman? Lin Qiong was stunned. She did not expect that her master had asked her to come out just to ask this question. Because Lin Qiong was afraid that Yun Luofeng would discover him, he kept a distance from them. Moreover, Yun Luofeng and Yun Xiao did not speak loudly, so he did not hear what they were talking about. Well, Lin Qiong scratched his head. Master, you don't have any women working for you, so I don't often come into contact with women. I only go to the brothel occasionally after completing my tasks. Do you know about erotic pictures? Yun Xiao frowned and asked again. Lin Qiong was completely dumbfounded. What had happened to her master? Why did he take the initiative to ask about erotic pictures? Master, do you want an erotic picture? Yes. Yun Xiao replied in a low voice. Prepare an erotic picture for me. Lin Qiong was so frightened that he could not even speak. Master actually wanted to see erotic pictures? Had he been enlightened? Yes, I will do as you say. Lin Qiong hurriedly cupped his fists respectfully. Then, he seemed to remember something and said, Master, I sensed that there was another person in the back mountain of the Yun family. Should we? The man's cold gaze fell on Lin Qiong. Lin Qiong was so frightened that he trembled and hurriedly lowered his head. Please forgive me. How could he have forgotten that his master's strength was so great? With his strength, He should have long sensed the existence of the other person. But he did not say anything, nor did he investigate. From this, it could be seen that the other person's relationship with the Yun family. However, he had dug his own grave by revealing this matter. Given his master's means, he would not forgive him so easily. Go back and receive your punishment. The man's voice was cold and ruthless, but it was like a heavy blow to Lin Qiong's body. Your subordinate understands. A layer of cold sweat appeared on Lin Qiong's forehead. She could not help but feel a chill run down her spine when she thought of the punishment that her master had set. Remember, don't get involved in things that you shouldn't. After saying these words, Yun Xiao walked out of the room. Just as he was about to step out of the room, he said, "Bring me the erotic picture before you go back to receive your punishment." After Yun Xiao disappeared, Lin Qiong's legs gave way and he fell to the ground. He slapped his mouth hard, his face full of regret. Who asked you to be so talkative? Great, now you have to go back and accept your punishment. The Yun family's main hall. The old man's expression was a little impatient as he looked out of the door with a sullen expression. When he saw the beautiful girl walking towards him under the sunlight, his expression eased up. Feng come to Grandpa. Yun Luo waved at Yun Luofeng and said amiably. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng walked over to Yun Luo's side. She then glanced at the man dressed in the Crown Prince's guard uniform and raised her brows as she asked, "Why did the Crown Prince send you to find me?" "His Highness the Crown Prince has sent me to deliver an invitation to the eldest lady." An invitation? Yun Luofeng was stunned. She took the invitation from the guard's hand and smiled when she saw the contents of the invitation. "I understand. Go back and tell the Crown Prince that I will be attending the banquet later." Chapter 62. The guard cupped his fists and left. After he left, Yun Luo frowned and asked, "What does the Crown Prince want to do?" "It's like this," Yun Luofeng closed the invitation. "Tonight, the Crown Prince is holding a banquet by the Qin River. Basically, all the nobles of Long Yuan country are attending. That's why he sent someone to deliver the invitation. However, there have been many gatherings in the past, but I've never been invited. Now, it seems that the Crown Prince wants to show off his love for Mu Wushuang in front of me, and humiliate me. You and the Crown Prince have already dissolved your marriage. Is there a need for him to do this? Grandfather, have you forgotten? It's true that the Crown Prince wants to dissolve our marriage, but in the end, this matter was brought up by our Yun family. In this way, the nature of the matter has changed. It's me who has abandoned the Crown Prince. Even if everyone knows that the Crown Prince is in love with Mu Wushuang, it will still embarrass the Crown Prince. He wants me to understand that without him, I won't be able to find a better man." Yun Luofeng's face lit up with an evil smile. "Since he wants to show off his love, I'll satisfy him. What's wrong with that?" "Feng I don't recommend you to go," Yun Luo frowned. "Although you can cultivate now, your strength is still far from the Crown Prince's. If you go like this, you'll be at a disadvantage." Yun Luofeng's black eyes shone with a dazzling light, and between his brows revealed the brilliance of confidence. "Don't worry, I will never let anyone suffer a loss. The one who will suffer a loss will always be others, not her. Do you want Yun Xiao to accompany you?" Yun Luo was still a little worried. In his heart, those people were like wolves and leopards. How could his delicate and tender granddaughter withstand their attacks? Isn't it making a mountain out of a molehill to let Yun Xiao deal with those people? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "I can go alone. Grandfather, I'm going to prepare for tonight's banquet. Don't worry and wait for me at home." She patted Yun Luo's shoulder, smiled mysteriously, and walked out, by the Qin River. The sound of the zither lingered in the air. Inside the noisy and luxurious ship, many young talents were loudly discussing poems and songs or the difficult problems they faced in cultivation. Gao Ling and Mu Wushuan, who were surrounded by these people, became their idols. "That's right, Your Highness. Didn't you say that trash Yun Luofeng would also come today? Why hasn't he appeared yet?" Guan Lin, the son of the Minister of War, suddenly asked. The bustling crowd suddenly quietened down. After a long while, an even louder discussion broke out. "Your Highness, why did you invite trash like Yun Luofeng? People like her don't deserve to talk to us." "That's right, this Yun Luofeng was at most a piece of trash in the past, but look at what he's done recently. First, she squandered all the assets of the general's residence, And then she forced General Yun to recruit guards and maids for her. General Yun is already old, but she still has to work hard for her. Why doesn't someone like her die? She's completely heartless and ungrateful. Your Highness the Crown Prince, you didn't despise her talent and were still willing to marry her. But she actually tried to steal a handsome man in the middle of the street. How can there be such a shameless woman in this world? Mu Wuxuan listened to these people's insults towards Yun Luofeng and felt extremely carefree in her heart. However, her face did not show it. Her face still carried a noble and elegant smile. This matter has nothing to do with the Crown Prince. I was the one who asked the Crown Prince to invite her here. Besides, the purpose of my invitation is very clear. I will choose a husband for her from among you as compensation for the Crown Prince breaking off the engagement with her. Chapter 63. What? After hearing Mu Wuxuan's words, Guan Lin's emotions became agitated. Miss Mu, Yun Luofeng is just a piece of trash. All of us here are geniuses. He's just a pretty face. How could he be worthy of us? That's simple. Mu Wuxuan's maidservant, Xiao Ju, heard this and stood up. Yun Luofeng has been using his position as the old general to bully others. With the old general here, it's impossible for him to make her a concubine. Now that the old general is old, he doesn't have many days left to live. When the old general dies, he will demote her to a concubine and no one will be able to protect her. Xiao Ju. Mu Wuxuan's face darkened and pretended to scold her. Who allowed you to interrupt? Step down. Mississippi, Xiao Ju tried to defend herself, full of grievances. I'm just feeling sorry for Mississippi. Yun Luofeng first seized His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and now he's come to the Prime Minister's residence, demanding that Miss find a husband for him. Otherwise, she will continue to pester the Crown Prince. If she really wants to pester the Crown Prince, the old general will definitely protect her. At that time, not only will His Royal Highness be in a difficult position, even His Majesty will be in a difficult position. Mu Wuxuan's face changed and his voice became even more severe. Xiao Ju. I've told you that you can't let anyone know about this. Don't tell me you've forgotten. At this time, in another private room on the luxury ship, the gentle fourth Prince Gao Shaochen couldn't help but laugh as he listened to the master and servant duo in the hall. It seems that my imperial brother's eyes aren't that good. He can't even see through a double act. He shook his head, his eyes carrying a cunning smile. However, Yun Luofeng is not as simple as she seems. I'm very curious, what kind of person is she? Indeed, as Gao Shaochen had said, Gao Ling did not hear the master and servant duo's double act. Now that he saw Mu Wuxuan still speaking up for Yun Luofeng, his handsome face couldn't help but sink a little. Wuxuan, when you proposed to find a husband for Yun Luofeng, wasn't it your own idea? Was it because you were forced by Yun Luofeng? Jailing's eyes were like torches as he stared coldly at Mu Wuxuan. You said before that you were afraid that Yun Luofeng would not agree to this marriage. I even planned to ask father for an imperial edict. I didn't expect her to propose this marriage herself. Mu Wuxuan smiled bitterly. Your Highness, Wuxuan has no choice but to do this. What's more, Yun Luofeng's eyes are indeed on top of her head. She may not be satisfied with the husband I found for her. Her. Gao Ling sneered as the disdain in his eyes intensified. What right does she have to be so arrogant? Wuxuan, since she opened her mouth to you, this prince will help you with this matter. At that time, when this prince finds a husband for her, she will have to marry him even if she doesn't want to. Little Chrysanthemum is right. She can rely on the old general to act like a tyrant now. Once the old man dies, no one will protect her and she can become a concubine. Everyone looked at each other and fell silent. Although Yun Luofeng was trash, she was beautiful. If she was taken as a concubine, many people would be willing. Marrying a wife was based on appearance and talent. Marrying a concubine only required one to be as beautiful as a flower. It seems that today's banquet will be very lively. Suddenly, a languid voice sounded from outside the cabin door, attracting everyone's attention. Under the dusky sky, a young girl leaned against the cabin door. The corners of her lips curled into a demonic smile as she stared at the crowd in the hall. Chapter 64. The young girl's eyes were pitch black, like a boundless night sky. She is clearly looking at you, but it gives you the feeling that you are not in her eyes. This feeling of contempt, usually only those in a superior position would have. But now, Yun Luofeng is giving them this feeling. You're here? Mu Wuxuan's heart trembled and she slowly regained her composure. She maintained a noble and elegant demeanor, not revealing the jealousy in her heart nor the fact that she was on good terms with Yun Luofeng. Instead, she spoke in the tone of a powerhouse facing an ant. "You're late." Yun Luofeng's lips curled up and her pitch-black eyes turned towards Jailing. The smile on her lips was sinister and cold. "Your Highness the Crown Prince had written the time on my invitation card. Could it be that Your Highness had deliberately written the wrong time?" Mu Wuxuan could not possibly say that the Crown Prince had written the wrong time. Hence, she unquestionably put the blame on herself. "I'm guessing that we've all remembered the wrong time and arrived early. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have blamed you for being late." This sentence pushed Yun Luofeng to the opposite side of the crowd. Could it be that she was the only one who had written the correct time? Could it be that all of them had remembered the wrong time? "Yun Luofeng, don't go too far." Jailing's handsome face sank as he pulled Mu Wuxuan into his arms. His eyes were as sharp as a sword as he shot Yun Luofeng. "The time I wrote was indeed 5:15. You're the one who's late and you're pushing the blame onto Wuxuan. Wuxuan, you don't need to apologize to this good-for-nothing." In Jailing's arms, Mu Wuxuan took advantage of the fact that no one was looking to gently raise the corners of her lips. The Crown Prince had written the time at 5, but she had changed the time to 5:15 when the Crown Prince was not paying attention. "Crown Prince," Mu Wuxuan subconsciously tried to break free from the Crown Prince's embrace. Her willowy eyebrows furrowed. "Please let go of me. It's not good to do this in public. Besides, Yun Luofeng is your ex-fiancé." Hearing this, Jailing rubbed her body even tighter and said domineeringly, "It won't be long before you become my official wife. Why not? You, Mu Wuxuan, are not only a proud daughter of heaven, but also a disciple of Jing Lin. At such a young age, you already have such high medical skills. How can Yun Luofeng compare with you?" Mu Wuxuan blushed and no longer struggled. He snuggled into Jailing's broad chest with a satisfied and happy smile on his lips. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily as he watched the shameless couple snuggle up to each other. A smile flashed across his demonic black eyes. "I'll leave you with a word of advice. Those who show off their love will die faster." Gao Ling's handsome face grew uglier and uglier. Just as he was about to open his mouth to teach Yun Luofeng a lesson, Mu Wuxuan reached out and held him back. "Forget it, Your Highness. No matter what, you were once Yun Luofeng's fiancé. It's normal for her to be unhappy with what you've done." Mu Wuxuan shook her head at Gao Ling. Her beautiful eyes turned to Yun Luofeng, her posture elegant and noble. "Yun Luofeng, I heard that you've recently become obsessed with medicine? Why don't we discuss it?" As soon as Mu Wuxuang's words fell, Guan Lin, the son of the Minister of War, couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Miss Wuxuang, you're looking for the wrong person to discuss medicine with. How can Yun Luofeng compare to you? You're Jing Lin's disciple. Your medical skills are superb. What is she? A prodigal son who uses money to buy herbs and burn them for fun. I'm really curious. She bought so many herbs, yet she didn't poison anyone to death?" Chapter 65. "Guan Lin," Mu Wuxuang frowned and said in a disapproving tone. "You're wrong. Who hasn't walked from the beginning without knowing anything? Yun Luofeng has this hobby. It proves that she's not useless." Guan Lin curled her lips, disapproving of Mu Wuxuang's words. A waste like Yun Luofeng would certainly not be able to learn medicine, and no one would be willing to accept her as a disciple. Only Mu Wuxuang would be kind enough to give her some pointers. Yes, in Guan Lin's view, Mu Wuxuang's claim to discuss medicine with Yun Luofeng was clearly to give her some pointers. "Yun Luofeng," Mu Wuxuang once again turned to Yun Luofeng. "With your beginner state, if no one teaches you, you will definitely take a lot of detours and waste countless medicinal herbs. Why don't I teach you a few points? With these points, it will be more useful than 10 years of reading medical books by yourself." Did Mu Wuxuang really want to teach Yun Luofeng? No. She was doing this to humiliate her. To let Yun Luofeng know that apart from her appearance, she was completely useless. Moreover, she also knew that with Yun Luofeng's temper, it was absolutely impossible for her to accept her guidance. "Okay." Just when Mu Wuxuang thought that Yun Luofeng would refuse her, the girl's voice with a smile sounded lazily. Her expression immediately stiffened. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to her, she slowly recovered her noble expression. Yun Luofeng, if you have anything you want to ask me, feel free to ask me. I will do my best to answer you. Yun Luofeng gently stroked her chin, her black eyes with a playful smile. I want to know how to cure the poison of the datura flower. Mu Wushuang was startled. She pondered for a while and said, if I remember correctly, the poison of the datura flower is a question posted on the wall of the medical pavilion. Even the doctors of the medical pavilion can't solve it. Yun Luofeng, this answer, even if my master came, he wouldn't be able to answer you. I suggest you start from the most basic. The poison of the datura flower is not something you can touch right now. The implication was that even the doctors of the medical pavilion couldn't solve the problem. Even if she couldn't answer it, it was still excusable. The detoxification method for datura poison is very simple, Yun Luofeng yawned, lazily leaning against the door of the ship. You can't even answer such a simple question. What right do you have to discuss with me? Yun Luofeng. Gao Ling was so angry that he clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles cracked. It felt like he was going to punch Yun Luofeng in the face at any moment. You are deliberately making things difficult for Wushuang. In the end, Gao Ling restrained his urge to hit someone and said angrily, even the medical pavilion is helpless against the mandala flower's poison. What right do you have to say that the cure is simple? You asked this question on purpose. Let me warn you, do not bite off more than you can chew. Medical skills must be learned from the very beginning. Wushuang kindly guided you, but I was humiliated by you. Now that you've lost such a good opportunity, you're destined to be trash. The atmosphere in the cabin suddenly became serious. Everyone looked at the furious crown prince, but no one had the courage to interrupt him. Amidst this tense atmosphere, the sound of someone falling to the ground could be heard from the cabin, instantly attracting everyone's attention. The old man's breathing turned pale as he curled up on the ground, trembling. Beside him, a beautiful young girl supported his body as she cried out anxiously, someone, hurry up and save my grandfather. My Ning family will be deeply grateful to anyone who saves my grandfather, and will give them generous gifts. Chapter 66. Ning family? Everyone looked at each other, their eyes filled with surprise. Among the 4 major families of Long Yuan country, there was no Ning family. So where did this Ning family come from? Looking at their attire, they didn't seem to be from a small family. Seeing that everyone was indifferent, the beautiful girl gritted her teeth and increased the conditions. If anyone can save my grandfather's life, I will give you 1,000-years-old ginseng as a reward. 1,000-years-old ginseng. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even His Majesty the Emperor only had one such precious item. Moreover, that ginseng was still some time away from reaching 1,000 years old. Who would have thought that this girl would give them 1,000-years-old ginseng as a reward? Where did they come from? Because the luxury ship was very spacious, in addition to the main hall, there were more than a dozen luxurious private rooms. This girl was obviously not with Gao Ling and the others. Guanlin chuckled. Young lady, let me tell you the truth. Among us, only Miss Wushuang can save you. It's impossible that you don't know Miss Wushuang's reputation. She's the peerless genius of our Long Yuan country, and her medical skills are superb. In the entire mainland, there's no one who's better than Miss Wushuang. So you're in luck this time, you've met your savior. The beautiful girl's eyes lit up, following Guanlin's gaze to Mu Wushuang. She seemed to be grasping at the last straw of hope and said anxiously, Miss, please save my grandfather. My grandfather can't die. As long as you save him, the Ning family will owe you a great favor. This time, they left the family to visit famous doctors to treat their grandfather's illness. Who would have thought that their grandfather would suddenly fall ill? In fact, even the doctors in the medical court said that there was no cure for his illness, and they could only try their best to prolong his life. Therefore, they didn't have high hopes for this trip, they just wanted to try their luck. Who would have thought that she would really be so lucky? Listening to the young man's words, it seemed that this girl named Mu Wushuang's medical skills were very good, even better than those in the medical court. Maybe she could really cure her grandfather. This. Mu Wushuang pretended to be modest. I can't guarantee that I can cure your grandfather, I can only try my best. Miss Wushuang, don't be so modest. You have a famous doctor as your master and his medical skills are incomparable. If you can't cure this disease, who else can? Guanlin continued to flatter Mu Wushuang. It was obvious that his flattery made Mu Wushuang feel very good. However, her expression did not show it at all. she still maintained the noble and elegant demeanor of a strong cultivator. The beautiful girl's eyes lit up again. He said that Mu Wushuang is a disciple of a famous doctor? Could it be the one that grandfather had mentioned before? It was said that that person's whereabouts were always uncertain, and he had an eccentric temper. Finding him was harder than ascending to the heavens. In her opinion, only that person could cure her grandfather. In an instant, the beautiful girl's heart was filled with confidence. If she knew that Mu Wushuan's master was just a lowly imperial physician of the Long Yuan country, would she be so angry that she would give Guanlin a good beating for exaggerating? Yun Luofeng leaned lazily against the door of the ship, smiling evilly as he looked at Mu Wushuan, who was about to treat the old man. He looked like he was watching a good show. "What are you laughing at?" Guanlin glanced at the smile on Yun Luofeng's face and coldly snorted. "Among us, the one with the best medical skills is Miss Wushuang. What's the meaning of you laughing at her? Do you think you can cure diseases? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." Chapter 67. In the cabin of the ship, under the dusk, Mu Wushuang walked elegantly towards the old man who had fallen to the ground. There was a shallow smile on her face, her beautiful eyes flowing with light as she whispered to the beautiful girl, "Miss, can you step aside and let me diagnose your grandfather's illness?" The girl nodded desperately. A glimmer of hope rose in her eyes. She was also desperate to find a doctor. She didn't even find out Mu Wushuang's identity and rashly asked her to treat him. Mu Wushuang squatted beside the old man, her fingers on his pulse, her willowy eyebrows slightly wrinkled. "Miss, your grandfather's condition is a bit complicated. I'm afraid I have to go back and discuss it with Master." Her words were very conservative. She didn't say that it couldn't be cured, nor did she say that it could be cured. She just left room for people to speculate. "Your master." The girl's anxious eyes after hearing the first half of Mu Wushuang's words couldn't help but light up. She nervously grabbed Mu Wushuang's arm and begged, "Take me to see your master. As long as he can save my grandfather, I can promise you anything." "This." Mu Wushuang's willowy eyebrows wrinkled. Her face was embarrassed. "My master is not willing to treat just anyone. If I take the liberty to take them back, I'm afraid I will be severely punished by him." The girl's eyes dimmed. Her grip on Mu Wushuang's arm involuntarily loosened. How could a famous doctor of his generation treat others at will? It seems that grandfather is really hopeless. "How about this?" Mu Wushuang's eyes turned slightly. "I can go back and plead with Master if he is willing. I will inform you. How about this?" Before she could finish her words, suddenly, a burst of laughter interrupted her words. Mu Wushuang's willowy eyebrows wrinkled, her beautiful eyes swept to the beautiful girl standing with her back against the door. She said seriously, "Yun Luofeng, I know you can't put down your face to discuss medical skills with me, but when I was treating the patient, I didn't let anyone leave. I wanted you to learn a few things. Why don't you understand my good intentions?" Her tone was just like a master teaching his disciple. If it fell into the eyes of those who didn't know the truth, it was estimated that Yun Luofeng would be regarded as an undisciplined disciple. Mu Wushuan, Yun Luofeng slowly straightened his body, his smile lazy and demonic. "To be honest, I'm starting to admire you." Mu Wushuang smiled elegantly. In her opinion, it was normal for a waste like Yun Luofeng to admire her. Then, Yun Luofeng's words caused her to freeze in place. "You don't know the identity of this grandfather-granddaughter pair, so you plan to fool them first before going back to investigate their background. If they don't have any background, you can snatch the 1,000-year ginseng without fear. If they have a background, you can just say, 'This old man's illness is something even your master can't do anything about.'" Mu Wushuan, I really admire you. Undeniably, Yun Luofeng's words had spoken Mu Wushuan's true thoughts. It also caused her expression to change involuntarily. "Yun Luofeng, I know you hate me, but even if you hate me, there is no need to frame me. I just pity them and want to do my best to save them. If I really can't save this old man, it's not my fault." Mu Wushuang's expression softened. "Even though my master's medical skills are brilliant, he can't cure every illness." The implication was that if the treatment failed, it wouldn't be her fault. Yun Luofeng. When Gao Ling saw his beloved woman being bullied, he immediately flew into a rage. What kind of deep hatred does Wushuang have for you to target her so many times? Doctors aren't immortals. They can't cure any illness. If you have the ability, then go ahead and save him. If you don't, then shut up. Chapter 68. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips and stared at the enraged Gao Ling with a forced smile. "If I can save him, you'll have to promise me 2 things. Humph. Gao Ling scoffed icily. If you can really cure this old man, forget about 2 things, I'll even agree to 100 of them. But first you must save him. What if you go back on your word? Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest and raised an eyebrow. There are so many witnesses here, why would I go back on my word? Gao Ling replied disdainfully. Yun Luofeng, this wastrel, aside from being a hedonist by nature, he also likes to spout nonsense. This was not the first time something like this had happened anyway. There was no way he could be trusted. These people are all your people, I don't trust them. Yun Luofeng raised a finger and said, I need to find someone who's fair. Just as she spoke, a gentle voice rang out from behind her. It made her feel as if she was bathed in a spring breeze and her entire body felt comfortable. It was as if just listening to him speak was an ultimate pleasure. I'll be the notary. I wonder if Miss Yun is satisfied? Yun Luofeng turned around and his gaze fell upon the man in embroidered robes who was walking towards him. He raised an eyebrow and his lips curled into a mocking smile. I'm not sure if I should say that it's a coincidence or that His Royal Highness, the 4th Prince, is haunting me like a ghost? Why is it that every time I meet Mu Wuxuan, I also meet you? Could it be that His Royal Highness, the 4th Prince, is in love with Mu Wuxuan? Gao Ling's expression changed and he shot a hostile look at Gao Xiaochen, clearly treating him as a rival in love. Cough, cough. Gao Xiaochen coughed drily and his handsome and gentle features carried a sense of embarrassment. Miss Yun, are you kidding me? Do you think that everyone would mistake a fish's eye for a pearl like a certain someone? Compared to Mu Wuxuan, I'm more interested in you, Miss Yun. Yun Luofeng blinked. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in you. You should look for Mu Wuxuan instead. Miss Yun, don't you think that we're the same kind? Gao Xiaochen raised the corners of his lips and waved his fan. His smile was warm and kind, but it couldn't hide the craftiness in his eyes. So, this prince will sooner or later arouse your interest. Before that happens, you can't push me to someone else. The man's words were filled with obvious disgust towards Mu Wuxuan, causing Mu Wuxuan's expression to turn cold in an instant. Her arrogant, beautiful eyes glared icily at Gao Xiaochen. 4th Prince, Wuxuang's heart belongs to the Crown Prince. Even if you want to marry her, Wuxuang will not marry. Gao Xiaochen acted as if he hadn't heard Mu Wuxuan's words and continued to smile warmly at Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, this prince will be the notary, are you satisfied? As long as the 4th Prince doesn't protect the Crown Prince, why should I be dissatisfied? Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows, and his eyes that were as dark as the night had a confident luster. If I can cure this old man, I hope that the Crown Prince can agree to 2 of my conditions. First, no matter what happens in the future, you are not allowed to pester me, and you are not allowed to mention your previous engagement. Gao Ling was stunned for a moment before he laughed mockingly. Don't worry, I will never pester you. Gao Ling would never have imagined that one day, Yun Luofeng's words would come true. Sure enough, he would never stop pestering Yun Luofeng, who has already shown his talent and ability. He even shamelessly tried to restore their engagement. The second condition, Yun Luofeng's lips curled up as his dark eyes turned towards Mu Wuxuan. I want you to slap Mu Wuxuan. I'll decide when you want to stop. Chapter 69. Yun Luofeng. Gao Ling couldn't help but roar, his tightly clenched fists creaking. I'm warning you, don't go too far. I will never agree to your request. Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest and glanced sideways at the ashen-faced Gao Ling, chuckling. Your Royal Highness, do you mean that I can cure this old man? Otherwise, why won't you agree to my conditions? You. The veins on Gao Ling's forehead bulged. He looked like he was about to explode. At this moment, a small hand as warm as jade grasped his fist, followed by Mu Wuxuang's elegant and sweet voice. Your Royal Highness, what's the harm in agreeing to her request? I believe that she has no chance of making you do anything to me. Mu Wuxuang smiled gently, completely different from her usual cold and elegant self. Even she can't save this old man, she doesn't believe that a beginner like Yun Luofeng can. So no matter what request she makes now, she will only be slapping herself in the face. Wuxuang, since you've said so, this Crown Prince will give her this chance. Gao Ling held Mu Wuxuang's hand, his tone gentle. When he glanced at Yun Luofeng, his gentle expression changed to one of disgust. Yun Luofeng, I know that you've made a scene today to attract this Crown Prince's attention. You've succeeded. This crown prince has noticed you again, but at the same time, this crown prince is disgusted by you. In this life, don't even think about winning my heart. Gao Ling still couldn't believe that Yun Luofeng was the one who proposed to break off the engagement 10 days ago. This Yun Luofeng loves him to the bone. How could he bear to break off the engagement with him? It must be because old man Yun loves his granddaughter so much that he took the initiative to break off the engagement. Pfft. The fox guy Gao Xiaochen accidentally laughed out, instantly attracting everyone's attention. What are you laughing at? Gao Ling's eyes darkened as he asked sharply. It's nothing. This prince is just wondering why there are so many shameless people in this world? Gao Xiaochen smiled warmly. His fox-like, cunning eyes gently winked at Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, I wonder if this prince is correct? Of course, Gao Ling did not think that the person Gao Xiaochen was talking about was Yun Luofeng. When he thought of how Gao Xiaochen had fought with him all these years, his expression turned cold and a cold light flashed across his eyes. Brother, you should pay attention to your status. You're just a prince. Who gave you the courage to be so arrogant in front of this prince? The crown prince of Long Yuan country had always been a crown prince. Even though the fourth prince was older than Gao Ling, who was the fifth prince, had won the title. There was no other reason than the fact that the crown prince was the son of the late empress. From the moment he was born, he was destined to be glorious. Everyone else was trampled under his feet. Gao Xiaochen's eyes darkened as he said mockingly, reincarnation is really a skill. As long as one is reincarnated well, one's ability becomes secondary. However, someone threw away a dazzling pearl and picked up a fish's eye. He will regret this decision for the rest of his life. After saying this, Gao Xiaochen no longer looked at Gao Ling. Instead, he smiled and looked at the beautiful young lady who was walking towards the old man. Can you step aside? Yun Luofeng raised her eyes and said to the beautiful young lady in front of her, I'm going to perform acupuncture on him now. Chapter 70. The beautiful young girl froze for a moment and subconsciously walked to the side, opening up a path for her. Yun Luofeng, Mu Wushuang frowned. Since you want to save someone, we don't want to stop you. But since our grandfathers are both officials, I'll teach you a few things. Before you save someone, you need to feel the patient's pulse. If you don't know how to feel a pulse, I can teach you on the spot. These words seemed to be instructing Yun Luofeng, but in fact, it was telling others that Yun Luofeng was a waste who didn't even know how to feel a pulse. A waste like her can only cure people to death, she can't save them. Little girl, don't you know the background of this Yun Luofeng? She's a famous waste in our Long Yuan country, and you actually dare to let her treat your grandfather? She doesn't even know how to feel a pulse, and she dares to talk about treatment? Guan Lin laughed loudly, his words full of sarcasm and contempt. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows and inadvertently glanced at Guan Lin who was behind her. This gaze of hers seemed to be filled with disdain, arrogance, unbridled, and awe-inspiring evil, causing Guan Lin's laughter to stop abruptly while a strand of astonishment flashed on his face. After a long time, he shivered and abruptly returned to his senses. This waste is still the waste of the past, but why is her gaze so frightening? I'll only give you one chance. Yun Luofeng retracted her gaze and turned her black eyes to the beautiful young girl who was hesitating because of Guan Lin's words. Save him or not, it's up to you. But let me tell you, if your grandfather continues to be in a coma, I'm afraid he won't make it through today. The young girl's beautiful face showed a hint of struggle. Finally, she fiercely gritted her teeth. Miss, please save my grandfather. On the way here, her grandfather's condition had indeed worsened. If it were to be dragged on, it was estimated that he really wouldn't make it through the night. Now, she could only treat a dead horse as a living one. With the young girl's words, Yun Luofeng took out a cloth bag from her sleeve. She carefully opened the bag and pulled out a shiny silver needle. She pinched the silver needle between her fingers and aimed it at the old man's Bai Hui point. She slowly pushed the needle into the old man's brain. As the needle was pushed in, Yun Luofeng's expression changed from its previous laziness to one of extreme seriousness. No one saw that after the silver needle was inserted into the old man's Bai Hui acupoint, a white spiritual power gradually flowed along her silver needle into the old man's body. It was recorded in the Divine Encyclopedia of Medicine that when doctors were treating and saving people, they could fuse their medical skills with their spiritual power. This way they could achieve twice the results with half the effort. Unfortunately, this method had long since been lost. In addition, Saving people consumed a large amount of spiritual power, so it was obvious that very few people could do it to this extent. But Yun Luofeng was different. The divine codex of medicine could replenish her spiritual power. In this way, whether it was during a battle or during treatment, she didn't need to worry about suddenly running out of spiritual power. Mu Wushuang shook his head and sighed helplessly. Crown Prince, this Yun Luofeng didn't even diagnose the old man's illness and rashly applied acupuncture on him. Especially when the acupuncture point was the Bai Hui acupoint. This kind of behavior has already proved her failure. My master could have cured her, but unfortunately. The implication was that with Jing Lin's ability, he could have completely cured this old man. But because of Yun Luofeng's actions, this old man was completely hopeless. I've said it before, Yun Luofeng doesn't have any real ability. She only knows how to fool people. Chapter 71. Gao Ling laughed icily as his eyes filled with ridicule. Just as he was about to continue mocking Yun Luofeng, the expression on his face froze. On the floor of the cabin, the eyelids of the old man, who had been deemed dead for sure, gently trembled. Then, he opened his eyes in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone was in a daze. No one dared to believe what they had just witnessed. Does this good-for-nothing Yun Luofeng really have medical skills? This is even more unscientific than an ant raping an elephant. Grandfather. Just as everyone was in a daze, a beautiful young girl's joyful voice rang out and broke the silence of the cabin. Grandfather, you're awake. You're finally awake. You scared me to death just now. The young girl happily grabbed the old man's arm and pulled him up from the ice-cold floor of the ship. She then turned towards Yun Luofeng excitedly. Thank you so much. You've saved my grandfather, which is equivalent to saving the entire Ning family. I don't know how to thank you. Only then did the old man regain his senses. His eyes filled with gratitude. Miss, did you save me? I never thought that you would have such superb medical skills at such a young age. Not only do I feel refreshed, even my spirits are much better. Miss, can you completely cure my illness? Yes. Yun Luofeng's answer was very certain. In half a month, I can help you recover completely. When he had asked this question, the old man did not have much hope. It had not been easy for Yun Luofeng to awaken him. He did not have any hope of curing his illness at all. Who would have thought that Yun Luofeng would give him a definite answer? At this moment, the old man's heart felt like it had been reignited from the ashes. A hint of excitement appeared on his aged face. Miss, my surname is Ning. You may call me Elder Ning. This is my granddaughter, Ning Xian. You are about the same age, so you should be able to become friends. During your stay here, I will allow my granddaughter to follow you. If you have any instructions, you may ask her to carry them out. Elder Ning had his own considerations for allowing Ning Xian to follow Yun Luofeng. Even though his granddaughter was exceptionally talented, she was not mature enough. He could allow her to learn from Yun Luofeng for a period of time. Besides, if Yun Luofeng could really cure his illness, it would mean that her medical skills would surpass those of the medical pavilion. As such, there would only be benefits to befriending her. I have no objections. Yun Luofeng shrugged and turned to look at Jailing with a half-smile. He curled his lips and said, Crown Prince, isn't it time for you to fulfill your promise? The Crown Prince's expression was very ugly. It was as black as wrought iron. His tightly clenched fists trembled slightly as he glared at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng, you did it on purpose. No matter how he thought about it, he would never have thought that Yun Luofeng actually had medical skills. When did he learn medical skills? Why didn't anyone know? Guan Lin and the others didn't say anything. Thinking back to how they had ridiculed Yun Luofeng just now, they felt a burning pain on their faces. They were so ashamed that they wanted to find a hole to crawl into. In particular, before everyone thought that Yun Luofeng didn't know what was good for her. Mu Wushuang kindly gave her 2 pointers, but she actually turned a blind eye to it. With Mu Wushuang's medical skills? Could he guide her? It's more like she instructs Mu Wushuang. To think that Mu Wushuang could say that his guidance could make her study 10 years less. Wasn't she ashamed? Among those present, the one who was most embarrassed was Mu Wushuang himself. Yun Luofeng's actions were undoubtedly like a slap, ruthlessly slapping her face, filling her heart with jealousy and hatred. Even her usual elegant posture could not be maintained. Her sinister beautiful eyes stared at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 72. Fortunately, no one was in the right state, so no one noticed the viciousness in her eyes. Exen, what happened just now? Elder Ning, who was unaware of the situation, frowned and asked. Ning Exen immediately told him about the bet between Yun Luofeng and the Crown Prince, including what Mu Wuxuan and the others had said, without missing a single word. Miss Mu Wuxuan, you want to give Miss Yun some pointers? Elder Ning looked at the angry Mu Wuxuan in surprise, and said in a flat tone. In that case, this old man will also give you some pointers. A real famous doctor doesn't need to feel the pulse to diagnose a disease. They only need to use their eyes to judge the condition. Those who even need to feel the pulse to diagnose a disease are just quacks. Mu Wuxuan's body shook, tightly clenching her fists, the hatred in her heart burning like a raging fire. It's all Yun Luofeng's fault. If it weren't for him, she wouldn't have been humiliated like this. She wouldn't have been called a quack. However, because of this Yun Luofeng, she couldn't say anything to refute. Exen? Elder Ning turned to look at Ning Exen. You should learn more from Miss Yun in the future. I think this Miss Yun is very good. Her medical skills are superb, and she's steady. You're just too reckless and easily confused. It's just a quack, but he's already deceived you. If it weren't for Miss Yun's help, maybe I would have died in the hands of a quack. Yes, I know. I won't make the same mistake in the future, and I won't be deceived by a quack. This grandfather and grandson pair kept calling her a quack, making Mu Wuxuan's chest heave up and down, her face flushed red. She was just about to find an excuse to leave when Yun Luofeng's lazy and evil voice came from the side. Crown Prince, this second promise, are you going to start fulfilling it? Yun Luofeng stretched, a playful smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. It's getting late, I want to go back to sleep, so don't waste my time, remember. The harder the slap the better, the harder I'll be, and the sooner you can end it. Gao Ling's expression changed and he roared, Yun Luofeng, don't go too far. So the Crown Prince is a despicable person who doesn't keep his word. Yun Luofeng glanced sideways at Gao Ling. It's fine if you don't want to keep your promise. The fourth prince and Elder Ning are witnesses. When this gets out, everyone will know that the Crown Prince is a despicable person who doesn't keep his word. You! Gao Ling's eyes were spitting fire. His malevolent expression made people feel like he was going to punch Yun Luofeng in the face at any time. Miss Yun, Elder Ning was afraid that Gao Ling would beat Yun Luofeng up in a fit of rage. He shielded Yun Luofeng behind him as if he was protecting a child. Don't worry, he has promised you this condition. I will help you fulfill it. Otherwise, this old man will definitely cooperate with you to publicize his despicable actions to the world. Gao Ling didn't know Elder Ning's identity, so he didn't act rashly. At this moment, Mu Wuxuan slowly walked in front of him. Her eyes filled with tenderness and determination. Crown Prince, it's not worth it for you to break your promise for Wuxuan. Wuxuan asked you to agree to her condition before, so you must keep your promise. So, hit me, Wuxuan will never drag the Crown Prince down. Mu Wuxuan raised her beautiful face. Her beautiful eyes filled with deep emotion. She only told him that the reason why she was willing to endure such humiliation was because of him. Chapter 73. Gao Ling's heart ached. Wuxuan, don't worry, I will return the humiliation we suffered today to her one day. Mu Wuxuan smiled. Her smile was desolate and bitter, but it made Gao Ling's heart ache even more. At the same time, his hatred for Yun Luofeng deepened. Slap. Gao Ling raised his trembling hand and gently slapped Mu Wuxuan's face. It was as if he was brushing away dust, without any strength at all. If you hit her with this kind of strength, I don't think you'll be able to stop for the whole night. Yun Luofeng kindly reminded. Hearing Yun Luofeng's words, Mu Wuxuan bit her lip. Your Highness, you don't have to pity me. I'm not afraid of pain or humiliation. Gao Ling's heart trembled. Facing such a beautiful face, he really couldn't bear to hit her. Wuxuan, I'm sorry. Gao Ling gently closed his eyes. When he opened them again, the guilt in his eyes was even stronger. He raised his hand and slapped Mu Wuxuan. Slap. The crisp sound was so abrupt in this quiet cabin. Mu Wuxuan's left cheek instantly turned red and swollen. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them fall. As the beloved daughter of the Prime Minister's residence, let alone being slapped, not even a single strand of her hair had been hurt. Now, because of Yun Luofeng, she had been humiliated in public. She would remember this debt. In fact, Mu Wushuang didn't think about it. If the crown prince really loved her more than himself, he would not have hurt her even if he was an untrustworthy villain. But in the end, the crown prince still chose her. Slap. Slap, slap, slap. Jailing slaps landed on Mu Wushuang's face again and again. It was as if he was hitting himself in the heart, causing him to feel a stabbing pain in his heart. However, thinking of his reputation outside, he still ruthlessly slapped Mu Wushuang. Today's show was really wonderful. Gao Xiaochen raised the corners of his lips. His gentle face contained a playful smile. Luo Feng, if this kind of thing had happened to us today, I wouldn't have hit you even if I didn't keep my promise. Yun Luo Feng crossed her arms in front of her chest and leaned against the cabin door. When she heard Gao Xiaochen's words, she raised her eyebrows and smiled. Am I very familiar with you? Oh, Gao Xiaochen rubbed his chin and winked at Yun Luo Feng like a fox. Wouldn't it be better to cook us together? Why don't you come to the fourth prince's residence tomorrow and we can go to bed and cook? After leaving the prince's mansion, turn right and enter another alley. That's the most famous brothel in Long Yuan Nation. Go there and cook whoever you want. Yun Luo Feng lazily glanced at Gao Xiaochen. She had never thought that this man, who was as gentle as jade on the outside, would be so flirtatious. In comparison, she was more interested in Yun Xiao, who lacked proper training. Gao Xiaochen revealed a fox-like smile. Those women are too easy to cook, making this prince lack interest. They aren't as attractive as you, Maple, who are hard to cook, hard to chew and chewy. That's right, Yun Luo Feng nodded and said in agreement, you're right. Easy to cook is far less attractive than chewy ones. To me, fourth prince, you're just a rotten bone that's easy to cook. Gao Xiaochen's face finally stiffened. He realized that he had dug a hole and buried himself in it. Gao Ling had slapped Mu Wushuang countless times. At this moment, Mu Wushuang's face was swollen like a pig's head, no longer beautiful and elegant. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears, looking delicate and pitiful. Chapter 74. Gao Ling's hands were numb from the slaps. His heart was in so much pain that it was almost numb. No one knew what kind of storm was brewing in his heart. Looking at Gao Ling's gradually calming eyes, Mu Wushuang's heart was filled with joy. She even forgot the pain on her face. She knew that she had won the bet. Like Gao Ling, Mu Wushuang was also selfish. She loved Gao Ling because of his identity. Since that was the case, how could Gao Ling be more important than herself? She had chosen to receive these slaps because she was making a bet. Yun Luofeng's medical talent would definitely attract Gao Ling's attention. How could she allow Gao Ling to look at other women? That was why she had asked Gao Ling to slap him. Not only to make Gao Ling hate Yun Luofeng more, but more importantly, to make him feel guilty. She believed that after today, Gao Ling would not only love her more, he would hate Yun Luofeng even more. It's getting late. If I don't go back now, I'm afraid that my grandfather will come to arrest me. Yun Luofeng's lips curled upwards as she glanced at the pig-faced Mu Wushuang. Mu Wushuang, go back and tell Mu Xingqiu that I will repay what he owed the Yun family. The enmity between the Yun family and the Mu family was no secret in Long Yuan country. After hearing Yun Luofeng's words, everyone sighed. However, Yun Luofeng did not have his granddaughter's boldness to make such a declaration in public. Miss Yun, Ning Exen saw that Yun Luofeng was about to leave and hurriedly called out to her. You saved my grandfather, I would like to treat you to a meal. Is that okay? Yun Luofeng's back was facing Ning Exen as she shrugged her shoulders. I should go back and tell my grandfather about what happened today. I'm afraid I won't be able to fulfill your invitation. What about tomorrow? Ning Exen blinked. Are you free tomorrow? Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and nodded. Wait for me at the inn in Long Yuan country. I'll look for you tomorrow. As she finished speaking, she raised her hand and waved goodbye to the people behind her. She slowly walked down the boat and disappeared into the endless night. Gao Xiaochen narrowed his fox-like eyes and stared in the direction that Yun Luofeng had left. He sneered, no matter how old your bones are, there will be a day when they are cooked rotten. Yun Luofeng, this prince doesn't believe that I can't cook you well. Under the night sky, the general's residence was serene and peaceful. The man stood under the night sky as a light breeze brushed past. His black hair fluttered in the wind, and his black robes accentuated his tall and strong figure. His face was cold and unparalleled, so perfect that even a god would be jealous of him. At this moment, the man was holding a yellow-covered book in his hand. His two sword-like eyebrows were tightly knitted together, and a look of confusion flashed across his face. When Lin Qiong had brought him the erotic pictures, she had warned him that if he wanted to study the pictures in the yellow book, he had to be with Yun Luofeng. Otherwise, he would not be able to study them thoroughly. So until now, the man had not opened the yellow book in his hand. Just as the man was debating whether he should open the yellow book, a joyful voice came from the front yard. Even though he was far away, he could still hear it clearly. "General, young miss is back." "Young miss is back. She's back?" When the man heard the servant girl Qing Yan's loud shouts, an obscure light flashed across his cold, dark eyes. Chapter 75. Yun Family Hall. The old man looked up and down at the beautiful girl standing in front of him until he was sure that the girl was unscathed. Then he breathed a sigh of relief. "You little girl. You insisted on going to the banquet alone. Fortunately, you are fine, otherwise, I will go to the Crown Prince's residence tomorrow." His tone was reproachful, but Yun Luofeng could still hear the worry and pampering in it. Her heart couldn't help but warm. "I said, Yun Luofeng, am never a person who suffers losses. I will only let others suffer losses. This time, not only was I not bullied, but I even let the Crown Prince personally beat Mu Wuxuan." Yun Luofeng looked at his granddaughter in surprise. "You said the Crown Prince beat Mu Wuxuan? That's impossible. With the Crown Prince's feelings for Mu Wuxuan, how could he beat him?" Yun Luofeng shrugged and told Yun Luofeng what happened today. "The Crown Prince lost the bet to me. He just fulfilled his promise, but there is one thing you need to be prepared for. From now on, it is estimated that there will be a lot of people coming to visit, and I will not see anyone who comes." Originally, Yun Luofeng didn't intend to reveal her medical skills so soon. She did this to teach Mu Wuxuan a lesson. Therefore, she could imagine that once her medical skills were spread out, the general's residence would not be peaceful. Yun Luofeng was stunned, and after a moment, he burst into hearty laughter, which was full of joy. "Ha ha ha, good. You are really worthy of being my good granddaughter. Well done. Let's see how the people of Prime Minister Mu's residence will clamor in front of us from now on. Especially Jing Lin. Didn't he say that without his treatment, you can only be a waste for the rest of your life? This time, isn't it a slap in the face? I want to see how he will face the world in the future." Yun Luofeng stared at the laughing Yun Luofeng, and her mood unconsciously improved a lot. "In the past, what the Mu family owed us, I will repay them little by little." Her voice was extremely firm and her eyebrows were raised. "And this time, I will not let the Crown Prince feel better. Tomorrow, the Crown Prince will have an emergency, and no one can treat him except me." Why did she go to the banquet? Could it be that he would be sending himself up to be humiliated by others? No. In fact, she made enough preparations before going to the banquet. It was all for the sake of Prince Yin. Therefore, when the Crown Prince was not paying attention, she sprinkled the spirit-dispersing powder on him. As the name suggested, this spirit-dispersing powder could cause a martial practitioner to lose his spiritual power. To a person like the Crown Prince, losing his spiritual power was more painful than death. The shock in Yun Luo's eyes grew, but he did not think that his granddaughter had done anything wrong. After all, the Crown Prince had humiliated her over the years and nearly forced her to her death. Therefore, her revenge became reasonable. "You little girl." Yun Luo laughed bitterly. "Why didn't you tell me earlier that you had a plan? I've been worried about you for so long. It's getting late now, you should go back and rest." Yun Luofeng stretched lazily. "Don't worry about me in the future. I will never let myself suffer a loss." Under the night sky, the Yun family was very quiet, and there was a strange atmosphere everywhere. After leaving the Great Hall, Yun Luofeng suddenly realized just how strange the current Yun family was. If it was in the past, Yun Xiao would definitely appear in her line of sight the moment she returned home. But this time, that fellow actually didn't appear? Chapter 76. Yun Luofeng felt a little uneasy. Could something have happened to that fellow? However, when she reached the room at the back of the mountain, she realized that her worries were unfounded. The moonlight poured down and fell on the man's cold and peerless features. At this moment, the man's back was facing the moonlight and his black robes accentuated his perfect figure. His features were very exquisite and his dark eyes were like the deep darkness of the night. He stared unblinkingly at Yun Luofeng, who had just pushed open the door and entered. "You're back." The man's voice was hoarse and magnetic. It was like a magnet that could easily attract one's heart. Yun Luofeng raised her brows frivolously. "Are you looking for me?" The man's eyes were fixed firmly on Yun Luofeng. There was no expression on his cold and expressionless face. "I have a book here that I'd like you to study together." Yun Luofeng raised her brows again. Her gaze slowly shifted downwards and landed on the yellow-covered book in the man's hand. An erotic picture? A sense of astonishment appeared on the young girl's beautiful face. She then raised her head and stared fixedly at the man in front of her. "Yun Xiao, did you do this on purpose? If a man brought an erotic picture into your room and said that he wanted to study it with you, you would also think the wrong way. Even if this man had been the most pure and innocent person in your eyes." Yun Xiao was a little confused. He could not understand why she had become so angry after reading this book. However, Yun Xiao was very honest. He nodded and said, "I did it on purpose." Lin Qiong had told him that only 2 people could study the erotic pictures together. So, he had indeed waited for her here on purpose. Yun Xiao never thought that his subordinate Lin Qiong would have the courage to set him up. "Yun Xiao." Yun Luofeng laughed and forced the man's body into a corner. A dangerous light flashed in her eyes. "Do you know what the book in your hand is? Why did you give it to me to study together?" Yun Xiao frowned. He finally felt that something was wrong. "It's Lin Qiong. When he gave me the erotic picture, he told me that he wanted to study it with you. So I've come to see you." "Who's Lin Qiong?" "My subordinates." The man's deep voice startled Yun Luofeng. She had already guessed that Yun Xiao's identity wasn't ordinary, but because Xiao Mo had told her that Yun Xiao had no ill intentions towards her, she hadn't tried to investigate his identity. "You believe whatever others say?" Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes. Her body was tightly pressed against Yun Xiao, so much so that Yun Xiao did not dare to move at all. Otherwise, he would feel his entire body become incomparably hot. It was a strange feeling that he had never experienced before. "Yun Xiao, let me ask you a question. When the Mu Jia caught fire, were you the one who hired people to do it?" Only the Yun family held a grudge against the Prime Minister's manor. Moreover, there weren't many who had the guts to set fire to the Prime Minister's mansion. "They make you unhappy." The man's voice was cold and hoarse. "Those who make you unhappy must die. It's just that you probably don't want me to avenge you, so I didn't kill them." Yun Luofeng's heart suddenly trembled. In 2 lives, this guy was the first person who was willing to kill for her. "Yun Xiao, don't you want to study the erotic picture with me?" After returning to her senses, Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with a trace of mockery. "You can open this book now. If there's anything you don't understand, I'll teach you. How about that?" Yun Xiao was a good and obedient man, especially when it came to Yun Luofeng's words. He was completely obedient. Chapter 77. So after hearing the young girl's words, he opened the erotic picture very seriously. Inside the yellow leather book, the pictures of men and women in various positions were reflected in his eyes, causing him to be stunned on the spot. His grim face suddenly froze. Yun Xiao was indeed as innocent as a blank piece of paper when it came to men and women, but that did not mean that he was stupid. The postures drawn in the erotic picture were so penetrating. How could he not understand? "Lin Qiong." A wave of anger rose from Yun Xiao's heart and he clutched the yellow book in his hand tightly. Lin Qiong had actually brought me something like this. Especially since he had opened it right in front of Yun Luofeng. The pitiful Lin Qiong still does not know that her master has a grudge against her. So much so that he would not have a good life in the future. Yun Xiao's heart grew anxious and he hurriedly tried to explain himself to Yun Luofeng, afraid that the young girl would think that he was one with those lecherous, vulgar men. However, just as he turned around and before he could explain himself, he was met with a pair of eyes that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. The young girl's eyes carried a faint smile as she sized up the man in front of her with great interest. She looked as if she was admiring a perfect piece of art. At this moment, the distance between the two of them was very close. Yun Xiao could smell the young girl's faint fragrance in front of him and a strange impulse welled up in his heart, causing his body to heat up. He did not know why, but the picture of a man and a woman had suddenly leapt into his mind. "Do you want to study the erotic picture with me?" Yun Luofeng's voice was like the last straw that broke his back. An unbearable agitation rushed into his mind with a bang, causing his body to react involuntarily. Sensing the man's abnormality, Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a mocking smile and he left Yun Zhao's body in a flash. Yun Xiao, this is the price you have to pay for asking me to study the erotic picture. Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. If you come looking for me again in the future, I won't show you any mercy. After Yun Luofeng's body had left, the man felt a little better. Even he did not know why he, who had always been cold and emotionless, would feel such an impulse towards the young girl in front of him. You can go now. Yun Luofeng clapped his hands and smiled at the man standing in front of him. Also, don't believe your subordinate's words in the future. Don't be led astray by him. Poor Lin Qiong. She did not know that Yun Luofeng had decided her fate with just a few words. Oh. Yun Xiao nodded obediently. If you don't like him, I can exile him. Banish? There's no need for that. Just don't listen to everything he says in the future. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile, and he took 2 steps towards Yun Xiao, forcing him into a corner once again. He declared tyrannically, remember, the only one who can train you is me. Yun Zhao's face clearly showed a trace of uneasiness. The impulse that he had suppressed with great difficulty surged forth once again as the young girl approached him. Fortunately, Yun Luofeng did not torture him this time. After seeing his somewhat heated face, he flashed away. Let's go, I want to rest. Yun Luofeng yawned lazily and raised his eyebrows at the man in front of him. The man pursed his thin lips slightly. He looked at Yun Luofeng with a complicated gaze. Finally, he looked at her deeply, then turned and walked into the boundless night. Chapter 78. Master, you had such a good opportunity just now. Why didn't you pounce on him? Why didn't you? Little Mo's angry voice rang out in his mind. Dual cultivation, that's dual cultivation we're talking about. It's not just a small increase in cultivation. Why didn't you eat him up? Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly. Yun Xiao still needs some training. Let's talk about it after I've trained him. Besides, although I'm interested in Yun Xiao, I don't have any feelings for him yet. Master, what's wrong with Yun Xiao? You come and go at his beck and call, you're obedient, you have a good figure and you're powerful. Most importantly, he's never had a woman before. What else does he need to be trained in? Little Mo was very dissatisfied. His master had given up on such a good opportunity. If it were him, he would have pounced on him first. Feelings could be nurtured slowly in the future. The night sky was as still as water. In the quiet courtyard of the Yun family home, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Water splashed all over the man's perfect face. The man soaked his entire body in the cold water and felt the burning sensation slowly recede. Once his body had recovered, he leaped out of the lake and stood on the ground. His long black robe was soaked and clung tightly to his body. His abs were also exposed under the moonlight. The man's hair was also soaked and droplets of water slowly flowed down the perfect contours of his face. If any woman were to witness this sexy and seductive scene, they would definitely fall for it. He turned his back on the boundless night and said, Lin Qiong, your punishment will be heavier. No one noticed that a figure cupped her fists at the man and then disappeared into the night sky. Yun Xiao was just about to leave the lake when he noticed the erotic painting that he had thrown aside before entering the lake. After some thought, he picked it up and walked towards the back of the mountain. Ever since the medical pavilion had produced the spirit-gathering liquid, it had become more lively than ever. Every morning, countless people would come to the medical pavilion in order to get their hands on the spirit-gathering liquid as soon as possible. Fortunately, Yun Luofeng provided a few more bottles of spirit-gathering liquid for the medical pavilion, which prevented these people from fighting on the spot. At this point in time, in the inner hall of the medical pavilion, Elder Rong was smiling as he looked at the grandfather and grandson sitting in front of him. He chuckled and said, Elder Ning, it's such a coincidence that you came to Long Yuan Nation. I went back a while ago and only arrived here this morning. Why? Have you found the divine doctor? Ever since Elder Ning contracted an incurable disease, he had a sickly look. It had been a long time since he had been so radiant. He must have found a way to save his life. Elder Rong, you're right. I did find a famous doctor, but she's not the one we're familiar with. She's a famous doctor hidden among the people. My illness can finally be cured. Oh. Elder Rong raised his eyebrows. That's great. To be honest, I've always felt guilty because our medical pavilion couldn't cure you. So, when I heard that you're here, I plan to introduce you to a doctor. This doctor is really a peerless genius. She even has a way to cure the poison of the mandala flower. See, I just went back to fetch you. Hearing this, Elder Ning was taken aback. He smiled bitterly and said, "So there are so many geniuses in Long Yuan Nation. The lady I met is also a genius. She has already promised to treat my illness, so I won't trouble Elder Rong this time. I believe in her abilities. However, I would like to have a competition with Elder Rong to see who has better medical skills." Never in their wildest dreams would these two old men have thought that the peerless genius they knew was actually a human. Chapter 79. Elder Rong. Just as the two old men were talking, Lin Xiao, who was dressed in a green robe, walked in quickly. He cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to Elder Rong, the royal physician Jing Lin is here to see you." Jing Lin? Elder Rong frowned, no longer as relaxed as when he was talking to Elder Lin. His face was full of impatience. "I've said it before, I won't see anyone from the royal family." Elder Lin, Jing Lin, said that he has a 100-year-old medicinal herb and wants to give it to Elder Rong. Lin Xiao told Elder Rong what Jing Lin had said outside the door. His tone was calm, as if he was talking about something unimportant. The 100-year-old medicinal herb in Jing Lin's hands might be a treasure to others, but unfortunately, the medical court did not care about it. A 100-year-old medicinal herb. What a big deal. Elder Rong sneered, his face full of mockery. "Lin Xiao, do you know why Jing Lin came to the medical court to visit me?" Elder Rong, Jing Lin's face is full of panic. "I think he's here for the Crown Prince. This morning, I heard that the Crown Prince's spiritual power disappeared overnight. Jing Lin tried everything he could but could not help him recover. Therefore, I dare to guess that he must be here for the Crown Prince." In one night, the news of the Crown Prince losing his spiritual power spread throughout the entire Long Yuan country. Of course, this was related to Yun Luofeng's deliberate propaganda. With Jing Lin's medical skills, of course, he could not cure the Crown Prince. Therefore, he could only seek help from the medical court. "Go back and tell Jing Lin that the medical court does not treat the royal family," Elder Rong said coldly. Elder Ning looked at Elder Rong in surprise. Although the medical court's doctors were arrogant and difficult to invite, the medical court had always given face to the royal family. Moreover, the other party was the Crown Prince of the royal family. Now, he actually rejected the other party's request so forcefully? Elder Rong seemed to know the old man's doubts and explained to him, "Elder Ning, I've told you before that there is a peerless genius who can cure Lord Ning's datura poison. That genius has a grudge with the Crown Prince. If I save the Crown Prince now, what if she is unhappy and refuses to cure Lord Ning?" Hearing this, Elder Ning was stunned. "Such a coincidence? The genius I know also has a grudge against the Crown Prince. Last night, I saw how she took revenge on the Crown Prince." Elder Rong was slightly startled. Just as he was about to say something, a clamor came from outside the door, accompanied by Jing Lin's angry roar. What happened outside? Elder Rong stood up and frowned. "Lin Xiao, go and see what's going on. Why is it so noisy?" "Yes." Lin Xiao cupped his fists and walked towards the door. In the hall, Jing Lin glared angrily at the beautiful girl in front of him. The flames in his eyes almost jumped out. "Yun Luofeng, you vicious woman. You hit Wu Shuang yesterday, and you still have the guts to appear in front of me today. You're just jealous of Wu Shuang. I'm warning you, if you dare to go against Wu Shuang in the future, don't blame me for being ruthless." Jing Lin's impression of Yun Luofeng had always been that she was a wastrel. No matter what, he was not willing to believe that this hedonistic young lady's medical skills were truly outstanding. Moreover, Wu Shuang had personally said that she was unable to diagnose that old man's illness. Chapter 80. In this way, she came to the conclusion that the old man must have been invited by Yun Luofeng in order to clear his name in front of everyone. Otherwise, why would she be able to wake the old man up with a needle that Wu Shuang could not diagnose? Yun Luofeng lazily raised her eyes and glanced sideways at the old man who was blocking her way. Her lips curled into a smile. "There is one thing you are mistaken about. The person who beat Mu Wushuang was not me, it was Gao Ling. In addition, I am not here to look for you, I am here to look for Elder Rong." Early this morning, Elder Rong had sent someone to the general's residence to invite her. That was why she had come to the medical pavilion at this time. Who knew that she would bump into Jing Lin? Needless to say, Jing Lin must have come because of Gao Ling's illness. Unfortunately, unless she took action, the people in the medical pavilion would not be able to cure Gao Ling. Yun Luofeng, Jing Lin sneered, his eyes filled with a strong sense of ridicule. Every day, there are countless people who come to the medical pavilion to see Elder Rong. Do you think a good-for-nothing like you would be willing to see you? Even Wu Shuang was rejected when he came to see her, let alone you. It is better to be self-aware so that you don't embarrass yourself later. Yun Luofeng stretched her back and raised her eyebrows at Jing Lin. If I were Elder Rong, I would not see a person like Mu Wushuang who does not have any real ability. Whether it was in words or actions, Yun Luofeng would not let herself be at a disadvantage. Jing Lin was stunned. He did not know where this girl got the courage to say such arrogant words. Wu Shuang did not have real ability? Could it be that she had found an old man to pretend to be sick and she had real ability? What a joke! Yun Luofeng, you really have no manners. Fortunately, your parents died early, otherwise they would have been angered to death by you sooner or later. Jing Lin laughed coldly. He was the royal doctor. Even the emperor had to give him some face. Perhaps the world needed to fear General Yun Luo, but only he did not need to bear the threat of old Yun Luo. Therefore, Jing Lin would say these words at this moment. Yun Luofeng slightly narrowed her eyes, a dangerous light flashed across her eyes. Her tone was as lazy as ever, but it clearly carried a touch of unruly momentum. Yun Xiao, just don't kill him. There was a sneer on Jing Lin's face. Just as he was about to say a few words of mockery, a powerful pressure suddenly pressed down from above his head. When he regained his senses, a fist landed on Jing Lin's face with a bang. Jing Lin's body flew out and fell into the crowd. How dare you? Jing Lin was enraged. He glared at the callous man who was walking towards him. I am the royal physician. If you hurt me, you will be charged with the crime of despising the royal family. Yun Luofeng curled her lips into a faint smile. She lowered her body and looked at Jing Lin on the ground with a faint smile. I'm hitting you. What can you do to me? Arrogant. Egotistical. Domineering. I'm hitting you, so what can you do to me? At this moment, Yun Luofeng fully displayed the nature of a hedonistic young master, as if she had always been like this. That's right. Yun Luofeng was the only daughter of the general's residence, and the general doted on his only granddaughter to the extreme. She did have the right to be arrogant. Moreover, the cold-masked man beside her was not weak at all. No wonder the general was at ease with her going out alone. Yun Luofeng, you're really unreasonable. This is the medical pavilion. If you dare to cause trouble in the medical pavilion, even your grandfather won't be able to protect you. Jing Lin saw the cold man walking towards him again, and his eyes unconsciously became flustered. Chapter 81. The man did not say a word as he silently walked to Jing Lin's side. He then picked up the old man who was lying on the ground and threw him fiercely to the side as if he was picking up a little chick. Tui! The old man's body slammed against the wall and he instantly felt a sweet taste in his throat. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face was flushed with anger. Yun Luofeng! He roared angrily and glared fiercely at Yun Luofeng. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded out and broke the tense atmosphere. Our elder Rong is not seeing any guests today, so... Lin Xiao was just about to ask everyone to leave when he suddenly noticed Yun Luofeng standing in the crowd. He was shocked. Jing Lin did not notice his abnormality and crawled up from the ground. He rubbed his injured chest with his large hand and his expression was extremely ugly. Shopkeeper Lin, someone is causing trouble in your medicine pavilion. Are you not going to do anything about it? Lin Xiao frowned and instinctively looked at Yun Luofeng who was standing with his arms crossed. Yun Luofeng's face carried a smile that did not reach his eyes. His evil smile turned towards Lin Xiao. Lin Xiao laughed bitterly. Elder Rong's attitude towards Lady Yun was very obvious. He would protect her even if he had to abandon the imperial family. However, she did not know what Lady Yun's attitude was. If Lady Yun did not want to reveal her brilliant medical skills and she had exposed her identity instead, she was afraid that she would anger her. Unfortunately, Lin Xiao did not know that Yun Luofeng's medical skills had been exposed last night. The medicine pavilion will handle this matter. Lin Xiao frowned. Now, all he wanted to do was to send Jing Lin away. As for what happens next, it was not something he could interfere with. Of course, I believe in the Medicine Pavilion's abilities. When Jinglin heard this, he thought that the Medicine Pavilion would stand up for him, and his elderly face lit up with pride. However, this Yun Luofeng is not only arrogant and unbridled, she is also incomparably cunning. I'm afraid that the Medicine Pavilion would be tricked by her in the end without even realizing it. Just like yesterday, she had randomly hired an old man to pretend to be sick and had then bravely volunteered to save him. In the end, everyone thought that her medical skills were brilliant, but in reality, she was still a good-for-nothing. Yun Luofeng raised the corners of her lips. She never thought that Jinglin would even use the excuse of the old man pretending to be sick. He was only trying to convince himself that she could not cure him. Lin Xiao. An old voice came slowly from behind Lin Xiao. The curtain of the inner hall of the medical pavilion was lifted, and two old men walked out. One of them was an old man dressed in a long white robe. He had a sage-like demeanor and the bearing of a powerhouse. The other old man was dressed in green robes, and his aged face carried a sickly look. A beautiful young girl followed closely by his side. At this moment, the young girl was supporting the green-robed old man as they slowly walked out. Elder Rong, Elder Ning. Lin Xiao turned to the two old men and cupped his fists respectfully. Humph! I wonder who dares to cause trouble in our medical pavilion. Get out of here immediately. Elder Rong's temper was very bad. His eyes swept across everyone in the hall and finally fixed on Jinglin. Jinglin naturally did not know that the person Elder Rong was talking about was him. He thought that the person Elder Rong was angrily rebuking was Yun Luofeng. A smug look flashed in his eyes as he angrily said to Yun Luofeng, Yun Luofeng, did you not hear what Elder Rong said? Get out of the medical pavilion immediately. This medical pavilion does not welcome an arrogant person like you. Chapter 82. Yun Luofeng crossed his arms over his chest and lazily leaned on Yun Zhao's body. He raised his eyebrows and looked at the angry Yun Xiao. The one who should get out of here is you. Hee hee. Jinglin chuckled in a low voice, and the ridicule in his eyes deepened. I am the royal physician, and you are just a piece of trash that everyone looks down on. Everyone knows that the person Elder Rong is talking about is you. You're the only one who's shamelessly staying here. You're really the same as your grandfather. Back then, I had already warned him that we, the royal doctor, would never save Yun Qingya. In the end, he shamelessly knelt on the ground and begged us. Humph! Did he think that kneeling would be useful? No. Even if he committed suicide in front of me, I would not do anything. If it was said that Yun Luofeng's state of mind could be said to be calm at the beginning, then now, her chest was heaving up and down. Whenever she thought of the scene of her grandfather kneeling in despair, her heart would be filled with endless anger. However, his kneeling did not receive any help. Instead, he suffered even more humiliation. You can imagine in the cold wind, a white-haired old man kneeling helplessly to save his son. The people around him only gave him mockery and mockery. What kind of sorrow and misery was this? Compared to the humiliation he had suffered, he was more pained by his severely injured son. If second uncle had not been lucky enough to survive, perhaps this old man would have once again experienced the pain of a white-haired person sending off a black-haired person. Following Jinglin's words, the entire medical pavilion fell into a state of silence. Everyone could feel this oppressive atmosphere, as if even the surrounding air had frozen. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng's voice slowly sounded in this oppressive atmosphere. You said that I will take revenge. Only by taking revenge with my own hands will I feel satisfied. Just now, no one else had felt it, but Yun Luofeng had clearly felt the killing intent from Yun Zhao's body. She knew that Yun Xiao had indeed wanted to kill. If she had not said this, Jinglin's body might have been separated from his body in the next moment. But, was this what she wanted? No. This was definitely not the result she wanted. Jinglin was most proud of his medical skills. Only by ruthlessly trampling on his medical skills would he have endless despair. Jinglin, it's not your fault that you didn't save him. But you helping the Mu clan is a big mistake. I can forgive you for not saving them, but I can't forgive you for colluding with the Mu clan. Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with evil charm as he slowly walked towards Jinglin. Jinglin laughed coldly. He looked up at Yun Luofeng, and when his eyes met hers, a rumbling sound filled his mind. It was as if his soul had been struck, and he couldn't stop himself from trembling. Pah! The girl's slap landed heavily on Jinglin's face, and her demonic and arrogant voice reached his ears. This slap is for you to return to my parents on behalf of Mu Jia. Pa! Another slap. Jinglin's head was dizzy and he was completely unable to react. You're returning this slap to my grandfather. You can watch him die, but you don't have the right to humiliate an old father who is eager to save his son. Pa! The slap landed heavily again. Jinglin felt like he was seeing stars, and his whole body was dizzy. It seems that you also think that you did something wrong, so you didn't dodge. If that's the case, I'll give you a few more slaps. Wasn't that right? In everyone's eyes, Jinglin was too ashamed, so he didn't dodge Yun Luofeng's slap. But no one knew that at that moment, the impact that came from the depths of his soul. Chapter 83. Jinglin came back to his senses with great difficulty, and suddenly realized that he had just been slapped a few times by a little girl like Yun Luofeng in front of a large crowd. He was instantly enraged. Yun Luofeng, how dare you act so presumptuously in the medical pavilion? Kneel down and admit your mistake immediately. Otherwise, I will never forgive your actions today. Yun Luofeng took the handkerchief from Yun Xiao and carefully wiped the palm that had slapped Jinglin as if there was some germ on Jinglin's face. Yun Luofeng. Jinglin clenched his fists in anger, but before he could rebuke her, Elder Rong's impatient voice rang out from the side. What are you still doing here? How dare you cause trouble in my medical pavilion? Get lost. Jinglin fiercely swallowed the flames that he was about to spit out. His arrogant gaze fell upon Yun Luofeng's demonic yet peerlessly beautiful face as he scoffed icily. Today, on account of Elder Rong, I will let you go for now. Did you not hear what Elder Rong had said? Get lost immediately. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng did not move and looked at Jinglin with a smile in her eyes. Jinglin was even more disdainful. He had seen thick-skinned people before, but he had never seen anyone as thick-skinned as this. Elder Rong's words were not polite at all. She was still shamelessly staying here. She was indeed Yun Luo's granddaughter. No one could match her level of shamelessness. Just as Jinglin was about to retort, Elder Rong's voice rang out once again. Jinglin, I've asked you to get lost. Did you not hear me? Jinglin's words had just reached his throat when he choked on Elder Rong's impatient words. He almost choked on his breath. He coughed violently and his elderly face flushed red as he stared dazedly at Elder Rong. Elder Rong, was that me you were talking about? He pointed at himself and asked in disbelief. Elder Rong replied coldly. Who else could it be if not you? I, Elder Rong, have never seen anyone as thick-skinned as you in my entire life. I've already asked you to get lost twice, but you're still staying in my medical pavilion. This was what Jinglin had used to mock Yun Luofeng. Now, it was returned to him by Elder Rong. Jinglin's body stiffened and his face turned pale. He stammered, Elder Rong, the person who came to the medical pavilion to cause trouble was clearly Yun Luofeng. He. Elder Ning smiled faintly and looked at Jinglin with a lukewarm gaze. The two of us only saw you using your power to bully others and bully a little girl. Now that you've been beaten up, do you still expect the medical pavilion to stand up for you? Elder Rong asked you to get lost, so get out of the medical pavilion immediately. Otherwise, I won't let you off even if Elder Rong doesn't make a move. Jinglin's face turned from white to green, then from green to white again. He took a deep breath and laughed dryly. Elder Rong, you must have misunderstood. I didn't bully the young girl. She was the one who asked someone to beat me up. Thus, the one causing trouble is not me, but this girl. Even now, Jinglin was still a little confused about the situation. He even thought that Elder Rong had thought that he was bullying Yun Luofeng because of her young age. Elder Rong, this girl is far too sinister and cunning. Last night, she had found an old man to pretend to be an injured patient in a vain attempt to deceive the world. It was a good thing that my disciple's medical skills are brilliant and he had long seen through the old man's pretense. That was why he had not been able to wake the unconscious old man up. It was just that my disciple had not exposed him for the sake of our past friendship. Chapter 84. Jinglin showed a smile and arrogantly glanced at the indifferent Yun Luofeng behind him. At this moment, he did not notice that the faces of the two old men had become gloomy because of his words. However, neither of them spoke, as they wanted to hear what else he was going to say. Jinglin mistakenly thought that the two old men had listened to his words and continued. A person as insidious, cunning, and audacious as her cannot be treated leniently. I know that the two of you are helping her because of her young age. I just don't want the two of you to be deceived by her. Elder Ning smiled faintly. His smile was cold and alienated, slowly echoing in the noisy hall of the medical pavilion. Is this Mu Wushuang's master from yesterday? Jing Lin froze for a moment, looking at Elder Ning in astonishment. He frowned slightly. I am indeed Mu Wushuang's master. I don't know who senior is. Me. Elder Ning smiled faintly. This old man is the old man who pretended to be sick and deceived people yesterday. Like 5 thunders, Jing Lin's whole body couldn't help but tremble, his shocked eyes staring at the old man standing in front of Elder Rong. Elder Ning was not a person from Long Yuan country, so it was understandable that Jing Lin did not know him. However, when he saw that this old man was with Elder Rong, he determined that the old man must be someone with some status. Therefore, he did not dare to act rashly at first. Could it be that the old man Wushuang met yesterday was the person in front of him? Elder Ning. Elder Rong no longer cared about Jing Lin. He looked at Elder Ning in surprise and asked, The famous doctor you told me before is Yun Luofeng? Yes. Elder Ning nodded and looked at Elder Rong strangely. Why? Don't you believe that this little girl has such high medical skills? Elder Rong smiled bitterly and said helplessly, I can certainly trust her medical skills. After all, the doctor I just told you about is also her. It's ridiculous that the two of us actually wanted to compare whose medical skills are better. Listening to the conversation between the two old men, Yun Luofeng gently raised her eyebrows, the corners of her mouth raised in a smile. These two old fellows actually wanted to use her to compare? Elder Rong also realized that he had said something wrong, but it was too late for him to retract his words. He chuckled dryly and said, Yun girl, I've known Elder Ning for many years. We like to compare ourselves to each other, so please don't take it to heart. Furthermore, we can't compare ourselves to each other right now. We can't possibly let you compete with yourself in medical skills, can we? Oh! The devilish smile on Yun Luofeng's face deepened. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Elder Rong, who was explaining. Elder Rong's expression became even more awkward. He had only blurted out the secret between the two old men just like that. Especially in front of Yun Luofeng. If it was said that Elder Ning's words had struck like lightning at the beginning, causing Jing Lin to be dumbfounded on the spot, but after hearing Elder Rong's voice, he was completely dumbfounded. He didn't even hear what the other party said next. There was only one voice echoing in his mind. Yun Luofeng, this trash, really had medical skills? This was even more unscientific than an ant raping an elephant. Jing Lin, since you don't want to leave, I can only throw you out. In order to divert his embarrassment, Elder Rong turned his gaze towards Jing Lin and ordered coldly, Men, throw Jing Lin out of the door. From now on, no one from the imperial family is welcome to enter my medical pavilion for all eternity. Chapter 85. As you command. Just as Elder Rong finished speaking, a few men in black walked out from the shadows of the medical pavilion. These men in black grabbed Jing Lin's hands and feet and lifted him up like a dead pig. They walked out of the medical pavilion and threw his body on the street like a parabola. Bang! Jing Lin's limbs were in the air. His face was covered in dust and he looked extremely pathetic. The pedestrians on the street stopped to watch. At this moment, Jing Lin finally recovered from the heavy blow. He quickly climbed up from the street, and without even patting the dust off his body, he fled forward in a sorry state. Elder Rong. Elder Ning. In the medical pavilion, Yun Luofeng's expression was not very good. She said listlessly, I'm a little tired today. You asked me to treat your illness. Send him to the general's residence tomorrow. I will treat you there. Elder Rong was stunned. He wanted to ask Yun Luofeng to stay, but before he could say anything, he was pulled back by Elder Ning. Elder Ning shook his head at him and turned his kind gaze to Yun Luofeng. Miss Yun, go back and have a good rest. We will go to the general's residence tomorrow to find you. All right. Yun Luofeng did not say anything else. She hooked her arm around Yun Xiao's neck and gently closed her eyes. Yun Xiao, help me back. Yun Xiao pursed her thin lips and bent down to carry Yun Luofeng. She then strode out of the medical pavilion. That damn Jing Lin. After Yun Xiao carried Yun Luofeng away, Elder Rong could no longer hold back his anger and exploded. I had already talked to the Yun girl today. In the end, it was all Jing Lin's fault that the Yun girl was angered and caused the Lord's treatment to be delayed. From Elder Rong's point of view, if it was not for Jing Lin, Yun Luofeng would not have left just like that. Even though Jing Lin had suffered a great loss here, it could not dispel the anger in his heart. Suddenly, Elder Rong seemed to have thought of something. He walked to the cabinet where the medicinal herbs were placed. With a crash, he threw all the precious medicinal herbs onto the ground. After some thought, he picked up a bottle of spirit-gathering liquid and smashed it onto the ground. Clang! The bottle filled with spirit-gathering liquid shattered into countless pieces, causing the snow-white spirit-gathering liquid to spill all over the ground and quickly evaporate. Elder Rong. Elder Ning was stunned for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he shouted, "What's wrong with you?" Elder Rong ignored Elder Ning's roar as he stomped on the medicinal herbs on the ground fiercely. He only took a deep breath when he had trampled on the precious medicinal herbs until they were beyond recognition. Then, he swept his cold gaze across the crowd in the medical pavilion. No one is allowed to say a word about what happened today. Especially with regards to Yun Las, if anyone were to leak even the slightest bit of information, they will definitely be hunted down by my medical pavilion. Everyone could not help but shiver. They all swore, "Elder Rong, don't worry. Even if we die, we won't say a word." Good. Elder Rong nodded in satisfaction. Also, I want all of you to spread a message. Say that Jing Lin had made things difficult for the General's eldest Miss Yun Luofeng in our medical pavilion. Who would have thought that Miss Yun was protected by a guard, so he had not succeeded? However, when he had fought with that guard, he had damaged our medical pavilion's medicinal herbs. Even the precious spirit-gathering liquid had fallen into his hands. Elder Ning finally understood what Elder Rong wanted to do and could not help but stare in shock. Hi! This was simply too high. Indeed, it was best to offend anyone but that old fellow, Elder Rong. Otherwise, when he decided to trick someone, he would take their life. Chapter 86. Lin Xiao. I'll make a list of guts later. You can take it to the Imperial Palace and have Jing Lin compensate according to the price. If I don't make him bankrupt, my surname isn't Rong. Elder Rong's eyes were spitting fire as he gritted his teeth. Elder Ning shook his head helplessly. I thought you had gone mad because of Jing Lin. I didn't expect you to use such a method to trick him. With the pressure from your medical pavilion here, Jing Lin wouldn't dare to not compensate. Humph. Elder Rong snorted coldly. Who asked that old bastard Jing Lin to drive that Yun girl away in anger? How could I not let him bleed? Go and spread this news now. My medical pavilion will take responsibility for everything. Jing Lin won't dare to do anything to you. But if I find out that you are helping Jing Lin, don't blame my medical pavilion for not showing mercy. A sharp glint flashed across Elder Rong's eyes. His voice was cold and stern. Grandfather, Ning Xian supported Elder Ning and said with a smile, with Elder Rong avenging Miss Yun, you can rest assured. However, this Jing Lin is really digging his own grave. Elder Ning smiled bitterly and said, Excellent, you're right. With Elder Rong taking action, why would there be a need for an old fellow like me? He's just an imperial physician. If I were to help him, I would be overestimating him. A hint of arrogance appeared on Elder Ning's usually indifferent face as he spoke his last sentence. As the head of the Ning family, he naturally had the right to be arrogant. There was no doubt about it. The Yun family. After Yun Luofeng was carried back by Yun Xiao, the entire Yun family was in an uproar. Qing Yan hurriedly sent someone to inform Yun Luo before following Yun Xiao into the back of the mountain. However, before Qing Yan could step into the room, the door was slammed shut with a bang, nearly injuring Qing Yan's nose. She stood outside the door with a face full of resentment and muttered, Now that Miss has Yun Zhao's service, she doesn't even want this servant anymore. As expected, Miss values her lover more than her friends. Forget it. I'll wait for the general to return first. In the room, Yun Luofeng looked at the man standing at the door and frowned. Yun Xiao, you go out too. Yun Xiao did not move as her cold eyes stared fixedly at the young girl's pale face. Did you forcefully increase your strength? Yun Luofeng weakly closed his eyes. She was only an intermediate nascent spiritualist, but Jing Lin was a beginner intermediate spiritualist. There was a gap of 2 whole ranks between them. The reason why Yun Luofeng was able to hit him before he could react was because she had borrowed the power of the divine grimoire to forcefully increase the strength of her soul. That was why she was able to use her soul attack on Jing Lin and cause him to lose focus for a short moment. Of course, this method had a consequence that was neither light nor heavy. The consequence was that Yun Luofeng's soul would become extremely weak when it recovered to its original state. Hence, she had asked Yun Xiao to bring her back. I'm fine. You go out first. Yun Luofeng slowly opened his eyes. His voice was no longer as arrogant and domineering as before. He spoke weakly. Yun Xiao, who had always been obedient, did not obey Yun Luofeng this time. Not only did he not leave, he walked in front of the young girl and stared at her seriously. His magnetic voice slowly rang out. Why won't you let me make a move? Yun Luofeng raised his eyes and looked at the man standing beside him. I want to do it myself. There was no other reason. She only wanted to personally teach Jinglin a lesson, even if it meant that her soul would become weak. Your power belongs to you, not me. Yun Xiao, do you understand? If you need it. The man's cold eyes were fixed on Yun Luofeng. My power can also belong to you. Chapter 87. In her past life, Yun Luofeng had once read a passage on the internet that had moved her greatly. The passage was this: if you want to kill someone, I will help you hold the sword. Even though the current Yun Xiao did not say these words, the meaning behind his words was the same as this familiar phrase. Yun Luofeng's heart was moved at this moment. She raised her eyes to stare at the grim and peerlessly beautiful man before her. Her deep, black eyes were incomparably serious. Yun Xiao, what if I don't need your power and insist on doing it myself? Yun Xiao frowned, clearly pondering over Yun Luofeng's question. After a long pause, he looked at Yun Luofeng once again. His grim eyes were filled with determination. I can help you hold down his hands and feet so that he won't be able to resist. You can vent your anger to your heart's content. The man answered Yun Luofeng's question with a deadpan expression. His expression was very solemn and serious, making one feel that he would definitely be able to do what he has said. Yun Xiao, why are you so good to me? Yun Luofeng's deep eyes stared at Yun Xiao as she asked. Yun Xiao pursed his thin lips and his grim eyes continued to stare at Yun Luofeng. I don't know. But I know that I want to protect you. I want to protect you. These 5 words caused Yun Luofeng's nerves to tremble. She rubbed her aching forehead and said weakly, Yun Xiao, if you're done speaking, you can leave. I want to quietly recuperate. Yun Xiao silently took 2 steps towards Yun Luofeng, still going against her orders. Yun Xiao. Yun Luofeng raised her brow when she saw how disobedient Yun Xiao was. Just as she raised her head to look at the man's grim features, the man's warm palm had already landed on her chest. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes as a dangerous glint flashed across her eyes. She never thought that a naive and ignorant man like Yun Xiao would actually take the initiative to attack her. Just as Yun Luofeng was about to tease this man, a warm feeling slowly flowed from her chest to her soul. She could feel that her originally weak soul was gradually recovering. Yun Luofeng finally understood. So this man wasn't taking advantage of her, but was actually nourishing her soul? At this moment, the man standing in front of her had his palm pressed tightly against her chest, as if he could feel the soft body of the young girl. A strange feeling immediately emerged in the man's heart. This feeling was somewhat uncontrollable, like a volcano about to erupt. However, he quickly calmed his breathing and focused on healing Yun Luofeng's injured soul. Master, I told you long ago not to use this method to increase the strength of your soul, but you just wouldn't listen. In his mind, Xiao Mo's resentful voice rang out. If you want me to forgive you, you can eat Yun Xiao up right now. Anyway, this kid hasn't tasted meat yet, so you won't lose out. Yun Luofeng ignored Little Mo's nagging. However, Little Mo had a determined heart and continued to mutter, Master, do you still want to become stronger? Right now, you have a shortcut to becoming an expert. As long as you eat this annoying little fairy in front of you, you can become an expert. Torturous little fairy? Yun Luofeng nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked at Yun Xiao, who was standing in front of her, from head to toe. She just could not associate this grim man with the word fairy. Chapter 88. What is it? Yun Xiao saw that Yun Luofeng was sizing her up with a strange look in his eyes and gently furrowed her brows. Yun Xiao, has anyone ever told you that you're very tasty? It goes without saying that the man in front of her had the capital to be seductive. His cool and peerlessly beautiful features and exquisite, perfect features were all capable of tempting anyone to commit a crime. Especially his 8-pack, it was exquisite to the extreme. If he were to strip off his clothes and fight outside, it was likely that the muscles on his chest would be incomparably smooth. Yun Xiao looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment as if she did not understand why she would suddenly say such things. No. After thinking for a moment, Yun Xiao answered Yun Luofeng's question truthfully. Indeed, no one had ever dared to say such things to him. However, with his status, even if those women had not seen his face under the mask, they would still cling to him. However, those women had not been able to survive. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xiao's slightly awkward expression and suddenly laughed. Yun Xiao, how much longer are you going to keep your hand on my chest? Her eyes glanced at Yun Xiao's hand, which was still tightly pressed against her chest, and a demonic smile gathered in her dark eyes. Yun Xiao's expressionless face stiffened. He retracted his hand and said grimly, Your body is fine now, I'll take my leave. Once he had said his piece, he turned and walked towards the door. No matter how steady his steps were, Yun Luofeng could see a trace of panic. Looks like this fellow isn't completely clueless about the matters between men and women. Yun Luofeng narrowed her eyes as she stared at Yun Xiao's departing figure. The smile on her lips carried a trace of demonic charm. However, he still lacks training. The entire Yun family knew that the eldest miss of the Yun family, Yun Luofeng, had been carried back by Yun Xiao. Hence, when Yun Luofeng, who had been chatting and drinking tea outside, heard about this, he hurriedly left everyone behind and rushed back to the general's residence. When he saw that Yun Luofeng was safe and sound, he heaved a sigh of relief. But even if Yun Luofeng had not been harmed, the old man, who had always been protective of his people, was still enraged. If Yun Luofeng had not held him back, he would have already rushed into the imperial palace to settle the score with Jinglin. At the same time, the entire imperial city of Longyuan country was in an uproar. The reason for this was none other than Jinglin making things difficult for Miss Yun at the medical pavilion. He even damaged the medical pavilion's finances, causing the elder of the medical pavilion to fly into a rage. He sent someone to the imperial palace with a list of damaged herbs to settle the score with Jinglin. Jinglin was completely unable to voice out his bitterness. What could he say? Was he being wrongly accused? Who would believe that? Therefore, he could only swallow his broken teeth. He silently took out all his assets to compensate the medical pavilion. In one night, the famous imperial physician of Longyuan country, Jinglin, had become a penniless wretch. Right now, he couldn't even afford to buy medicinal herbs. While Longyuan country was engulfed by this storm, Yun Luofeng, who was the main culprit, was peacefully cultivating at home, unbothered by the outside world. Back mountain. Inside the bathtub, Yun Luofeng slowly opened his eyes and exhaled murky air. Lilmo, I've become an advanced nascent spiritualist. Humph. Lilmo was still angry at Yun Luofeng's stubbornness. If you were willing to listen to me and have dual cultivation with Yun Xiao, you would have become an intermediate spiritualist long ago. Yun Luofeng's face darkened. This little fellow really wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. Forget it. Let's not talk about cultivation for now. The task that I gave to Milk Tea previously, it's almost completed. Chapter 89. Squeak Squeak. Just as Yun Luofeng mentioned Milk Tea, a squeak caught her attention. Then, she saw a milky white hamster crawl in through the gap of the door and squeak at Yun Luofeng. Have you finished digging the underground training ground? Yun Luofeng held Milk Tea in her palm and asked, Did you leave behind the 3 big holes I asked you to? Squeak squeak. Milk Tea nodded her head with all her might. She winked at Yun Luofeng cutely, as if asking her for a reward. I asked you to supervise those people. How is it going? During this period of time, Milk Tea dug the underground training ground during the day. At night, she was in charge of supervising those who were recruited. Of course, as a reward, Yun Luofeng did not mistreat her. Every day, she would give her a bottle of elixir as a reward. Squeak squeak. Milk Tea nodded again and looked at Yun Luofeng eagerly. This is your reward for today. Yun Luofeng picked up a bottle of elixir and threw it to Milk Tea. Milk Tea quickly caught the elixir and used her teeth to open the bottle cap. She gulped down the elixir. Unlike humans, the gold-seeking mice relied on constantly swallowing medicinal herbs to cultivate. And the spirit-gathering liquid made from medicinal herbs was naturally its food. Compared to the elixir, she missed the spiritual herbs from a few days ago more. Squeak squeak squeak. After drinking the spirit-gathering liquid, Milk Tea smacked her lips and waved her hands at Yun Luofeng, calling out a few times. Master, she said that she found a man sneaking out of the general's residence. She followed him and found that the man was sending a letter to an old man with a treacherous voice. Little Mo seemed to know the doubts in Yun Luofeng's heart and explained quietly. Obviously, this little thing was still angry. A treacherous voice? Yun Luofeng rubbed his chin and chuckled. Other than the eunuchs, no one would have a treacherous voice. It seems like the emperor is still worried about the general's residence and even placed a spy in the middle. Milk Tea, lead the way, I want to see those people. The reason why she did not make a move these days was to lure out the spy. It was obvious that the spy was impatient and exposed his target so quickly. Gigi. Milk Tea cheerfully called out twice, jumped down from Yun Luofeng's hand, and quickly ran out of the door while twisting her small butt. Yun Luofeng did not think further, chasing closely. The dark and damp stone room was currently packed with people. It was easy to imagine how cramped the stone room was for 200 people. After being ignored by Yun Luofeng for this period of time, these people had long become impatient. If it wasn't for the handsome salary of the general's residence, why would they stay here as if they were in prison? In the midst of the clamorous discussion, a lazy voice suddenly rang out, instantly causing everyone to come to an abrupt halt. Looks like you've had a good time here. You still have the energy to talk loudly? The young girl leaned against the stone wall. Her spotless white robes did not match the gloomy stone chamber at all. Her beautiful face was curled into a lazy and devilish smile as her black eyes stared silently at the suddenly silent crowd. Miss Yun, a dissatisfied voice rang out from the crowd. You've invited all of us here, yet you've left us all hanging here. What are you trying to do? Don't tell me this is how you treat us? Chapter 90. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly and turned to look at the person who spoke. It was a handsome young man. His delicate eyebrows were furrowed in dissatisfaction. Perhaps it was because he had been in the dark stone room for the past few days that his face was almost transparent and fair. He was clearly young, but his eyes seemed to contain the vicissitudes of life. What is your name? Yun Luofeng looked at the handsome young man and asked. The handsome young man did not think that Yun Luofeng would notice him so quickly. He was stunned for a moment. His eyes wandered around and he said, Yiling. My name is Yiling. I want your real name. Tell me, what is your real name? Yun Luofeng crossed her arms in front of her chest. There was not a trace of impatience in her tone. The young man was stunned. His eyes continued to wander and he said forcefully, Yiling is my real name. Okay, then let me change the question. Where did you go last night? Yun Luofeng smiled at the young man. Her black eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. Under her gaze, nothing could hide. Cold sweat began to appear on the young man's face. When he left yesterday, it was obvious that no one had followed him. Why was Yun Luofeng asking him this question? She must be purposely trying to trick him. What the young man did not know was that no one had followed him last night. Only a little hamster had sneakily followed behind him. Yiling? Yun Luofeng's smile deepened. It is said that a few years ago, Flowing Gold Country was defeated. In order to obtain peace, they sent the most talented third prince of Flowing Gold Country, Yiling, as a hostage. The third prince was supposed to be the next ruler, but he suffered the fate of being a hostage. So should I call you Yiling, or the third prince? The young man's expression finally changed. He looked at Yun Luofeng in horror. How did you know? Wasn't the young miss of the general's residence useless? How did she know who he was? When the crown prince sent you to the general's residence, I did not notice you. It was you who could not control yourself. Yesterday, when you went to meet with the eunuchs in the palace, you were discovered by my people. Yun Luofeng gently stroked Milk Tea's little head and smiled faintly. Of course, when I asked you just now, if you had randomly used a name, I would not have known that you were Yiling. But you used the name Yiling to trick me. She paused and raised her head to look at the youth's pale face. Empress Yi of the Flowing Gold Kingdom is your mother. It's hard not to notice that you came up with this name. I'm just curious, what did that person in the palace offer you to work for him? Yiling bitterly laughed. Yun Luofeng, everyone says that you are trash, relying on the name of the general's residence to act like a tyrant. Unfortunately, everyone is blind. No one can see through you. That's right. I am Yiling. The emperor promised me that if I stay in your manor for 2 years, he will let me go back to my country. Furthermore, if it wasn't for that old man Yun Luo, my flowing gold country would not have been defeated and I would not have become a hostage. A trace of hatred flashed across Yi Ling's eyes as he spoke coldly. Yi Ling, do you really think this is my grandfather's fault? Yun Luofeng coldly sneered. I admit that my grandfather was once too blindly loyal, obeying all of the Dog Emperor's orders, but he had no choice. The one you really hate is the Dog Emperor. What's more, I'm afraid you know better than anyone else why you became a hostage. Chapter 91. Yi Ling's body shook and he closed his eyes in pain. A few years ago, his mother, Empress Yi, had died in an accident. Imperial concubine Rong had become the empress in order for her son to succeed the throne. She had encouraged his father to send him to Long Yuan country as a hostage. To ensure his own safety, his father had agreed to this suggestion. Hence, the reason why he had become a hostage was inextricably linked to these two. You're right, I know the reason why I became a hostage. Yi Ling opened his eyes and looked at Yun Luofeng. Furthermore, if I hadn't become a hostage, I'm afraid that woman wouldn't have let me go. Yun Luofeng lazily raised his eyelids and the corners of his lips curled into an evil smile. So you're saying that my grandfather can be considered as your savior? If that's the case, can you tell me, why did the Dog Emperor send you here? She did not believe that he had sent Yi Ling to the general's residence just to spy on them. Yi Ling's body stiffened. After a moment of silence he answered Yun Luofeng truthfully. Besides sending me to spy on the general's residence, the Dog Emperor also sent me. Sent me to seduce you. And to successfully make you pregnant with my child. As she said this, Yi Ling's face flushed red and he didn't know where to look. A cold light flashed across Yun Luofeng's black eyes. He raised his lips and asked, "What's the purpose?" Yi Ling looked at Yun Luofeng. If you successfully become pregnant with my child, he can convict the general's residence of treason. Even if I'm only a hostage, my identity as the enemy country's third prince is still here. In other words, Gao Tu had not only sent him here to monitor the general's estate, but also to frame him so that he could completely eradicate the tumor that was the general's estate. It was a pity that old General Yun had fought for the country for so many years. His son and daughter-in-law had died on the battlefield, yet he had fallen to such a state. This Dog Emperor has really played a good game of chess. Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly, his brows furrowed with arrogance. Unfortunately, he underestimated the general's residence, and even more so, he underestimated me. Indeed, Gao Tu had underestimated Yun Luofeng. He had thought that Yun Luofeng would be lustful and fall into his trap. But he didn't expect that this Yun Luofeng was no longer the same Yun Luofeng who had been bitterly in love with the crown prince a few months ago. Moreover, with a beauty like Yun Xiao by her side, she really didn't think much of third prince Yi Ling. Yi Ling, Yun Luofeng's half-smiling gaze fell upon Yi Ling. Even though the smile on her face did not change, it still made people feel a chill run through their hearts. You helped the Dog Emperor plot against me. Have you thought about the consequences? Yi Ling's face was deathly pale. He smiled bitterly and said, As a hostage, I had no choice but to obey his orders. I don't care what difficulties you have, and I don't care who you are. All I know is that you want to scheme against me. Yun Luofeng's eyes were filled with awe as he spoke arrogantly. This is enough. Yi Ling's body shook. He knew that no matter how helpless he was, as long as he helped Gao Tu scheme against her, she would never forgive him. Whoosh! In the midst of Yi Ling's silence, the young girl's figure was like a mirage as she suddenly appeared next to him. A slender arm grabbed his wrist and twisted it forcefully. A piercing pain shot through his body and Yi Ling could not help but cry out in pain. Thump! The young girl threw his body onto the ground and stepped on his chest. Before Yi Ling could shut his mouth, she took out a porcelain bottle from her sleeve and poured the medicinal liquid into his mouth. Chapter 92. Gulp. Yi Ling's expression was filled with agony. His aged eyes were filled with terror. He felt as if his organs were on fire and the pain was unbearable. He wanted nothing more than to die immediately. What did you give me to drink? Yi Ling clutched his neck tightly. The veins on his forehead bulged and his eyes bulged. His handsome features were twisted in agony and his voice was filled with heart-wrenching despair. I've extracted the juice from several poisonous herbs and I've specially prepared it for you. Yi Ling, since you've had the guts to plot against me in the general's mansion, I'll give you a taste of unforgettable agony. Yun Luofeng stared down at the young man who was rolling on the ground. Her lips curled into a demonic smile as she continued to speak. I can't tolerate betrayal. I'll make anyone who betrays me suffer a fate worse than death. Xiao Mo, who was in the divine grimoire, could not help but roll his eyes. He completely understood that his master was establishing her power. To sum it up in one sentence, she was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Her goal was to make everyone understand that anyone who betrays her would not have a good ending. Clearly, the effect of her display of power was very obvious. The crowd shivered at the sight of the young man who was suffering a fate worse than death. Some even rejoiced that they were not the ones who had betrayed her. Kill me, I beg you, kill me. Ye Ling's voice was hoarse and filled with agony. He stared pleadingly at Yun Luofeng as 2 streams of tears rolled down from his eyes. The feeling of his organs being scorched by fire was much more satisfying than death. I won't let those who betray me die so easily. I'll only torture them slowly. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a bloodthirsty smile. Ye Ling, not only will I not let you die, I'll make you serve me loyally for the rest of your life. Only I can alleviate your pain now. Therefore, from now on, you must hand your life over to me. Ye Ling nodded without hesitation. He then replied in agony, I'm willing to serve you. Please let me go. Yun Luofeng slowly bent over and slowly pierced a silver needle into Ye Ling's heart. After the needle entered her body, a warm, clear stream slowly flowed into her internal organs. All the burning pain slowly disappeared. The silver needles can temporarily stop your pain, but from now on, you must bathe in the medicinal liquid I brewed for you every month. Otherwise, this pain will follow you like a shadow. She did not trust Ye Ling, so it was impossible for her to cure Ye Ling of the poison. This was the only way she could completely control him. Ye Ling's body slumped to the ground as cold sweat poured down his forehead. He was so weak that he couldn't even speak. He lay on the ground, panting heavily. Yun Luofeng straightened his body. His demonic black eyes swept over the rest of the people present. His eyes were wild, and his words were unruly. You've all seen the price of betrayal. I, Yun Luofeng, cannot tolerate betrayal in this life. If someone betrays me, I have thousands of ways to make them wish they were dead. Of course, don't count on luck. Ye Ling hid himself so deeply, but I still found out. Everyone quieted down. Under Yun Luofeng's arrogant aura, they didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. Yun Luofeng's gaze swept across everyone present and he continued, I'll hunt down those who betray me to the ends of the earth. But if you're loyal to me, I'll grant you a bright future. I know that your talents aren't good enough. That's why you're bullied and looked down upon. If you give me all your loyalty, I'll give you a chance to reach the top. I'll give you a chance to reach the peak. It's up to you to grasp it. Chapter 93. The young girl's demonic yet confident voice was like a heavy baton that slammed into the hearts of the crowd. Everyone raised their heads and stared at the young girl who was as beautiful as a painting. One could imagine the shock in their eyes. Was this still the eldest lady who everyone looked down on as a good-for-nothing? Why was she so peerless and radiant right now? No one could associate her with the woman who had been pestering the crown prince a few months ago. Eldest lady, why is it us? Someone in the crowd voiced out his doubts. With the power of the general's household, if they had the heart to form an army, they would certainly be able to recruit outstanding talents. Why had she chosen them? Yun Luofeng looked at the person who had spoken. This is a very simple question. I never judge a person based on their talent but their determination. Who said that only geniuses are fit to stand at the top of the mainland? Even if your talent is average, as long as you put in 10 or 100 times more effort than the average person, you will not lose out to a genius. I don't agree with the word, good for nothing, either. No one is born a good for nothing. It all depends on whether you are willing to work hard. The young girl's words were very persuasive and made the blood of the crowd boil. That's right. In this world, no one is born a good for nothing. So what if their talent is average? As long as they put in more effort than the average person, they can still trample over these so-called geniuses. When Yun Luofeng saw that he had the desired effect, he looked at the crowd with a calm expression. Hence, whether you can stay in the general's household will depend entirely on your own determination. I don't need someone who has no talent and is unwilling to put in the effort. If you slack off during your training, I will expel you from the general's household immediately. Believe me, once you leave the general's household, You will regret not taking advantage of this opportunity. Yi Ling sighed in her heart as she stared at the young girl's demonic features. If it had been Yun Luofeng who had fought against the Flowing Gold Country a few years ago instead of Yun Luo, the Flowing Gold Country would have been defeated in a single night. This young girl's strength was not very strong, but her words were able to stir up everyone's emotions in an instant, making the soldiers even more convinced of her. Forget about General Yun Luo, even the Yun family's #1 genius, Yun Qingya, could not have done this. I've already said what I wanted to say. I don't need to say anything more about how to grasp this opportunity. I know that you've all been very sullen in the stone chamber during this period of time, but I don't have any other way. After all, there are too many of you. My general's mansion couldn't accommodate all of you. Yun Luofeng looked around at the crowd and gently raised the corner of his lips. Fortunately, I have already prepared a place for all of you. However, before we go to this place, I must warn all of you. From now on, you are not allowed to divulge anything related to training to anyone. If there's anyone who disobeys, you've seen Yi Ling's outcome. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and they stood up straight. We will listen to first young mistress instructions. All right. Yun Luofeng shrugged. His demonic eyes turned to Yi Ling. Yi Ling, I will open a path for you so that you can leave the general's mansion at any time and report to the people in the palace. As for what to say in the report, you know it. Yi Ling laughed bitterly. No matter how much Gao Tu planned, he didn't expect that you had been pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger all these years. The people in the palace are destined to be no match for you. No matter what, Yi Ling never thought that Yun Luofeng was no longer the same Yun Luofeng of the past. She only believed that Yun Luofeng had been pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger all these years, using his reputation as a good-for-nothing to deceive the eyes of the world. Yun Luofeng did not explain further. She stretched lazily and smiled as she said, "Let's go. I'll take you to the underground training ground now." Chapter 94. The underground training ground extended for 10 miles. Apart from the battle stages of varying levels, there were also 3 giant pits that appeared abruptly in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone looked at the 3 giant pits in bewilderment. What were they used for? As if she did not notice the crowd's doubts, Yun Luofeng slowly turned around and swept her gaze across the crowd. Her voice had an extremely powerful charisma as it slowly rang out in the crowd. There are a total of 200 of you. 100 are men and the other 100 are women. Therefore, from today onwards, you will be divided into 2 teams based on gender. As men, you need to be as firm as steel. Therefore, from today onwards, you will be known as the Iron Corps. The men stood ramrod straight. They had clearly not undergone any training, but now they were like proper soldiers, their bodies as firm as a rock. Our Iron Corps will go through fire and water for the eldest lady. We will not hesitate. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a faint smile as his evil black eyes turned towards Yi Ling. As the 3rd prince of Flowing Gold Country, you are more adept at training than anyone else. Therefore, you will be the deputy commander of the Iron Corps. I hope you won't disappoint me. Yi Ling's body stiffened as he looked at Yun Luofeng in astonishment. Before this, he had helped Gao Tu plot against her. But now, this young girl had been promoted to deputy commander? Originally, Yi Ling had thought that it would be good enough if he managed to escape with his life. He did not expect that Yun Luofeng would disregard the past and put him in such an important position. For some unknown reason, a strange feeling surged into Yi Ling's heart, causing his heart to lean towards Yun Luofeng like a scale. Yi Ling, even though you plotted against me for Gao Tu's sake, I still acknowledge your abilities. From today onwards, if you pledge your loyalty to me wholeheartedly, I will also give you a bright future. Yun Luofeng glanced at the dazed expression on the youth's face and continued, but if I find out that you betray me again, the next time, it won't be as simple as using poison to control you. I will make you wish you were dead. Yi Ling's heart suddenly shook. He understood that since Yun Luofeng had spoken, he would definitely accomplish it. He pursed his thin lips and looked at Yun Luofeng with a complicated expression. From now on, my life belongs to you. Remember what you said. Yun Luofeng raised his eyes and turned towards the other members of the Iron Man army. His eyes were filled with arrogance and dominance. You must also remember that I will never allow anyone to betray me. If there is a traitor, I will not let him off. But if you give me all of your loyalty, from now on, you will be my people. I, Yun Luofeng, am naturally protective of my own. Therefore, your enemies are my enemies. Your relatives are also our relatives. The crowd suddenly quieted down. However, everyone there looked at Yun Luofeng with eyes full of emotion. Their hearts were boiling. What could be more touching than a master who treated your enemy as his own enemy and your family as his own family? Just based on these words, these people all submitted to Yun Luofeng in their hearts. Eldest Mississippi, a 16 or 17-year-old delicate youth, raised his hand and asked weakly, "I want to know, if the third prince is the deputy commander, then who is our commander?" Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile. "The commander is a rather mysterious person. In a few days, I will let him come here to meet you. However, you are not allowed to reveal the identity of the commander to anyone. Anyone who disobeys will be punished with the crime of betrayal." Chapter 95. As for choosing a commander, there was no one more suitable than Second Uncle. Grandfather was already old and should not worry about this matter. Adding on the fact that Second Uncle was depressed, if he could lead the army, it would reinvigorate his confidence. "As for you all," Yun Luofeng turned to the women and said, "You will be named the Blazing Army. The meaning of this name is to make you all like blazing flames. Wherever you go, nothing will grow." As Eldest Miss commands. The members of the Blazing Army clenched their fists and said in unison, "You must remember, you are not soldiers. You do not need to be restricted by dogma." Yun Luofeng's voice was arrogant and unruly, as if he did not put the world in his eyes. "Protecting the people is not your responsibility. You only need to protect the Yun family and your loved ones. If you want to save your loved ones, I will do my best to help. If you want to save strangers, then do what you can. I do not want to drag the entire army down for some insignificant people. Other than that, you can do whatever you want." It was not that Yun Luofeng looked down on soldiers. Any soldier was worthy of her respect. But respect was respect. She would not agree. In her heart, there was nothing more important than family and friends. What right did she have to drag her family down for insignificant people? What a good "do whatever you want, do what you want." Yiling bitterly smiled. His gaze towards Yun Luofeng became more and more complicated. But he understood that something had already taken root in his heart, until it finally grew into a towering tree. That thing was called loyalty. "Eldest Miss, the Iron Legion already has a commander and deputy commander. Who will be in charge of the Blazing Army?" Within the Flame Corps, a cute girl raised her hand, blinked her eyes and asked, "What is your name?" Yun Luofeng looked at the girl and slightly raised his eyebrows. Hearing Yun Luofeng ask for her name, the girl was a bit excited. "I am Zhonglinger." "Zhonglinger." Yun Luofeng smiled evilly. "This name is not bad. In the future, you will be the deputy commander of the Blazing Army. Of course, in the future, you will have to put in more effort than others. If your strength cannot catch up, then you can only give the position to someone else." Zhonglinger was so excited that she almost jumped up. She was afraid that Yun Luofeng would really give the position of vice-captain to someone else. She hurriedly promised, "Eldest Miss, don't worry. I will definitely not let you down." Yun Luofeng nodded slightly. "I hope so. As for the commander of the Flame Corps, I also have a candidate in mind. Once she arrives, all of you must obey her orders." When the other girls saw that Zhonglinger had seized the initiative, they were even more regretful in their hearts. Why didn't they stand out just now? Otherwise, Yun Luofeng would have noticed them. However, after hearing Yun Luofeng's next words, a wave of hope rose in their disappointed hearts. They still had a chance. As long as they surpass Zhonglinger, the position of vice leader will be theirs. In an instant, all the girls were full of fighting spirit and could not wait to immediately enter the training. "Yiling, Zhonglinger," Yun Luofeng yawned and said lazily, "I'll give you a mission. Within half a day, lead everyone and fill up the 3 water pits. Tomorrow, we'll officially start training." "Yes." Yiling and Zhonglinger replied respectfully. Without a doubt, Yun Luofeng had completely subdued them in these few minutes. Chapter 96. When she had left the underground training ground, Qing Yan had come to inform her that Elder Rong from the medical pavilion had brought a patient to her for treatment. As she spoke, Qing Yan's delicate features were filled with excitement as if she was the one whom Elder Rong had addressed as the godly physician. "My lady, you're really amazing now. Even someone from the medical pavilion has come to you for treatment. I'm so proud. Yun Luofeng stared at the little girl's blushing face with a forced smile and asked playfully, "What are you proud of?" "Of course I'm proud of the fact that I'm a godly physician's little servant girl. My lady, you finally had a good time. It's a good thing that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince had abandoned you. Otherwise, based on his status, he may not be worthy of you, my lady." Qing Yan replied angrily. Every time she thought of what Gao Ling had done to Yun Luofeng, she would gnash her teeth in hatred. "Qing Yan," Yun Luofeng paused before she suddenly asked, "if there was a chance for you to become a powerful cultivator, would you accept it?" In the entire Yun family, aside from her grandfather and second uncle, she trusted this little girl the most. In the past, it was also the Yun family, and only this little girl had truly and wholeheartedly served her. Qing Yan stared at Yun Luofeng in confusion. Become a powerful cultivator? Why would I want to become a powerful cultivator? I only want to be by your side. Besides, you're now a godly physician. Following you is more reliable than becoming a powerful cultivator. At least I don't have to worry about falling sick. Qing Yan, if I become a powerful cultivator, will you be able to help me with even more things? Yun Luofeng's gaze fell upon Qing Yan's delicate features as she asked again. Qing Yan blinked. If I can help you with anything, I would definitely be willing to become a powerful cultivator. My lady, you're acting strangely today. Why are you asking me these questions? Yun Luofeng laughed and shook her head. She did not answer Qing Yan's question and raised an eyebrow. Let's go, I'm going to treat someone. As for what I've just told you, you'll understand in a while. In the great hall, Yun Luofeng slowly sipped his tea. His eyes would occasionally glance towards the door and a sense of anxiety gradually appeared in his eyes. Elder Rong, Elder Ning, please wait a moment. My little brat walks rather slowly. She should be on her way now. If the person who had come was a member of the imperial family, Yun Luo wouldn't have been so anxious. However, the person who had come to find Yun Luofeng was Elder Rong of the medical pavilion. Apart from Elder Rong, the other elder was not an ordinary person either. Otherwise, Elder Rong would not have addressed him as Elder Ning. He couldn't even see through the strength of the pretty girl standing beside Elder Ning. One could imagine how powerful this young girl's innate talent was. At the very least, he was no weaker than Yun Qingya from 10 years ago. What made him even more fearful was the middle-aged man who had remained silent all this while. With Yun Luo's years of experience, he could tell that this middle-aged man's status was far above Elder Rong's. Ha ha, Elder Ning chuckled lightly and took a sip of tea before saying, General Yun, we can still afford to wait. You don't have to be too anxious. Elder Ning was just short of saying that the eunuch would die of impatience if the emperor wasn't anxious. The old man's expression was somewhat awkward. He coughed dryly and used an angry expression to cover up the awkwardness on his face. This damned girl, she's always late. When she comes, I'll definitely teach her a lesson. Of course, even though he said that, if he really had to teach Yun Luofeng a lesson, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Chapter 97. Grandfather, I was only delayed for a moment because of some matters and you're scolding me behind my back? Suddenly, a lazy chuckle sounded from the doorway. Under the sunlight, a young girl in white slowly walked in. Her peerless features were curled into a demonic smile and her black eyes were like the pitch-black night sky, so deep that no one could see through them. The young girl's gaze fell upon the silent middle-aged man in the hall. When she saw the man's white hair, the corners of her lips curled into a smile, revealing a hint of understanding. If her guess was correct, this middle-aged man was the one who had been poisoned by the Mandara poison. Little Yun, you're finally here, Elder Rong stood up excitedly. Now that I've brought the patient here, how confident are you that you can save him, little Yun? Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow and looked deeply at the middle-aged man. His illness is beyond cure. His head full of white hair is the best proof. Don't be fooled by his appearance as if he's in his 40s. His body's functions are already at their limits. Elder Rong's heart clenched. Little Yun, can he still be saved? Yes, but if he had just been poisoned, I would still have a 100% chance of success. Now, I'm at most 70%, Yun Luofeng smiled at Elder Rong. However, Elder Rong, it's very expensive for me to treat him. Besides, I don't accept money from you people. I only accept medicinal ingredients. Of course, if my treatment fails, I'll return the medicine. Elder Rong's eyes flashed with excitement. To him, a 70% chance of recovery was more than enough. The doctors in the medical pavilion did not even have a 10% chance of success. Little girl, our medical pavilion has a 1,000-year-old red tree. If you can save him, this red tree will belong to you. Yun Luofeng's heart skipped a beat. Among the many types of medicinal ingredients, the red tree was the most precious. It was said that the red tree only bears 10 red fruits every year. There were only a handful of red trees on the entire mainland, so one could imagine how precious this 1,000-year-old red tree was. As for the red fruit's use, it could increase the spiritual energy in a martial artist's body after consumption. Spiritual energy and spiritual energy were two different things. Spiritual energy was used as a consumable in battle. Even a powerful cultivator would be at the mercy of others if he or she used up all of his spiritual energy in battle. On the other hand, spiritual chi was the spiritual chi in the universe. It was for spiritualists to absorb and gather in their dantian. Once they reached a certain limit, they would be able to break through. Therefore, one could imagine how tempting the red arbutus tree that could provide spirit energy was. Even if the amount of spiritual chi it could provide was pitifully small, many people were still willing to pay a huge price for it. Little girl, I know that the redbud tree cannot be compared to your spirit-gathering medicinal liquid. However, this is considered the most precious medicinal herb in the medical pavilion. If it wasn't to save my lord, I wouldn't have been willing to take it out. Elder Rong was afraid that Yun Luofeng would look down on the red tree, so he hurriedly explained. All right. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile, and an evil light flashed in his eyes. If I can successfully detoxify the poison, this redbud tree will belong to me. To be honest, she really didn't care about the spiritual energy provided by the red cedar tree. However, if the simple red tree was placed in the medicine field in the divine grimoire space, the effect would be different. Perhaps the old man could use it to become an intermediate high spiritualist. Elder Rong was overjoyed. Little Yun, can we start the treatment now? Yun Luofeng nodded and turned to look at Elder Ning, who was quietly waiting at the side. I'll treat the people in the medical pavilion first. After I'm done, I'll treat you. Chapter 98. Elder Ning naturally had no objections to Yun Luofeng's decision to treat the man from the medical pavilion first. He smiled and said, Little Yun, I'll go with you to the rear courtyard. Treat him first and then treat me when you're done. Exian, help me up. Yes, grandfather. Ning Exian's pretty face lit up with a brilliant smile. She supported the old man's body and helped him up from the chair. Her clear eyes held a faint smile. Yun Luofeng glanced at the dignified and beautiful Ning Exian and sighed in his heart. This is a true lady from a noble family. His every action revealed that he had received extremely good etiquette. Even her movements are pleasing to the eye. Unlike the hypocritical Mu Wuxuan, Mu Wuxuan's dignified demeanor is entirely intentional. Her entire body exudes a hypocritical aura. If the two of them were to stand side by side, the real winner would be determined. All of you follow me. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily as his demonic eyes slowly swept across the people present. He then turned around and walked out of the hall. In the Prime Minister's mansion, ever since Mu Wuxuan had returned with a swollen face 2 nights ago, there had been no peace. All the servants and maids did not even dare to breathe, afraid that the Prime Minister, who had nowhere to vent his anger, would be caught in the crossfire. Trash, a bunch of trash. In the study, Mu Xingqiu swept all the books on the table to the ground. His elderly face was filled with anger. I've sent you to the medical pavilion to buy some swollen medicine, but you can't even get them back. What use do I have for you? Mu Xingqiu's face was ashen with anger. His eyes were filled with anger as he glared at the servants who were kneeling on the ground. The servants were so frightened that they lowered their heads. They did not even have the courage to raise their heads. Each and every one of them curled up in fear and trembled uncontrollably. Prime Minister, the people at the medical pavilion said that all the medicinal herbs had been destroyed by Imperial Physician Jing, so the medical pavilion is out of stock. The medical pavilion's medicinal herbs would never be out of stock. It's just that those people had been instructed by Elder Rong not to sell the medicinal herbs to the Prime Minister's mansion. Unfortunately, Mu Xingqiu was not aware of this. Grandfather. Just as Mu Xingqiu was about to fly into a rage again, an elegant voice slowly came from the door. Mu Xingqiu's anger gradually subsided when he heard this voice. He raised his head and looked at the young girl who had just entered the study room. he asked with a pained expression. Wu Shuang, why are you here? At this moment, Mu Wuxuan was no longer as glamorous as before. Her entire face was wrapped in gauze, leaving only a pair of venomous eyes and a small mouth. Grandpa, I've heard about what happened to the medical pavilion. Mu Wuxuan slightly lowered his eyes. I also know that Master, in order to avenge me, accidentally damaged the medical pavilion's property, causing him to be blacklisted by the medical pavilion. In fact, it's not that the medical pavilion is out of stock, but because of Master's behavior in the medical pavilion, the medical pavilion doesn't even sell us medicinal herbs. With Jing Lin's personality of wanting to save face, he would definitely not speak of the humiliation he had suffered in the medical pavilion. Because of Elder Rong's orders, the other people who were at the medical pavilion that day didn't dare to spread the news. Therefore, until now, Mu Wuxuang still did not understand why the Prime Minister's mansion was unable to purchase medicinal herbs from the medical pavilion. It was because the medical pavilion wanted to avenge Yun Luofeng. Wuxuang, don't worry. Grandfather will definitely avenge you. Mu Xingchao's eyes flashed with murderous intent as he said coldly. Chapter 99. Mu Wuxuan's body trembled. She closed her eyes in pain, a sour feeling welling up in her heart. Grandfather, the person who hurt me is His Highness the Crown Prince. No matter what, I will not take revenge. Humph. Mu Xingchao snorted coldly. His old face was gloomy as he said coldly, when did I say that I would seek revenge on the Crown Prince? The Crown Prince was also implicated in this matter. The real culprit is Yun Luofeng. If His Highness the Crown Prince had not been suffering from a serious illness recently, he would certainly seek revenge on Yun Luofeng. Mu Wuxuan did not speak. Her hatred for Yun Luofeng was deeper than anyone else's. Grandfather, ever since Yun Luofeng asked the Crown Prince to beat me up, I swore that one day, I will make him suffer the same pain. However, the Yun family has Master Yun in charge. Even if our Prime Minister's residence is blessed by the Emperor, what can we do? We can't do anything to Yun Luofeng. Wuxuang, I already have a plan. Mu Xingchou laughed sinisterly. Later, I will enter the palace and ask for an imperial edict from your aunt. Let her summon Yun Luofeng into the palace to study with Her Highness the Princess. When that time comes, she will no longer be under the protection of Old Man Yun. You can torture her however you want. Mu Wuxuan's eyes lit up. Why didn't she think of this? As long as Yun Luofeng enters the palace, her life or death will be in her hands. Of course, she will not let that woman die too quickly. She will make her life a living hell. As she thought of this, the hatred in Mu Wuxuan's beautiful eyes deepened. She was like a venomous snake, ready to swallow a person in an instant. Under the blazing sun, the general's mansion was peaceful and quiet. Master Dongfang was leisurely sipping his tea in the main hall. His elderly face was filled with a radiant smile. Obviously, Yun Luofeng's recent actions had given him great confidence. He believed that one day, the Yun family will break out of the tiny Longyuan country and appear in the eyes of the mainland. With Fenger here, perhaps we can really avenge her second uncle's death. Master Yun thought of the Yun family's deep hatred. His brows gradually sank as he muttered to himself. Master, this is bad. This is bad. Suddenly, a servant rushed in from the door. His face was dripping with sweat, and his voice was anxious. Prime Minister Mu's mansion is here, saying that it is the imperial edict of Imperial Concubine Mu, and also indicating that this imperial edict will be received by Eldest Mississippi. The old man's face darkened. With a loud bang, he smashed the teacup in his hand onto the ground. Which son of a bitch came from the Mu Jia? It's the eldest young master of the Mu Jia. The servant trembled as he reported. As soon as he finished speaking, a sneer suddenly sounded out from outside the hall, and it was arrogant and filled with disdain. So this is the quality of a great general of a country, cursing people and dogs at the drop of a hat. Even the servants of my Prime Minister's mansion wouldn't curse like you. A man in a brocade robe walked in quickly from outside the door, holding a red imperial decree in his hand. His cold eyebrows were somewhat similar to Mu Wuxuan's, and the corners of his mouth raised into a mocking smile. Mu Wuchen, what are you doing here? The old man's face became more and more embarrassed, and his sharp eyes were like a knife as he looked at the man in the brocade robe who appeared at the door. Mu Wuchen, Mu Wuxuan's elder brother. He was also the heir of the Mu Jia. This Mu Wuchen was not the same as that foppish Mu Shen. For the Mu Jia, Mu Shen was a dispensable existence, but Mu Wuchen, like Mu Wuxuan, was deeply loved by Mu Xingqiu. Chapter 100. I'm here to announce the Imperial Concubine's decree. Let Yun Luofeng come out to receive the decree. Mu Wuchen looked coldly at Master Yun and said condescendingly. Master Yun sneered. My granddaughter is not like the rest of you who only know how to cause trouble for others. She's very busy. How would she have the time to receive the decree? Are you going to leave now, or do you want me to throw you out? If it was someone else from the royal family, perhaps Master Yun would be more polite. However, since it was someone from the Mu family, with his hatred towards them, it was already polite enough that he did not throw him out. General Yun Luo, I'm here to announce the Imperial Concubine's decree. If you don't let Yun Luofeng come out to receive the decree, you'll be committing the crime of deceiving the emperor. Mu Wuchen's eyes darkened, his arrogant voice carrying a tinge of coldness. The old man laughed out loud. The crime of deceiving the monarch. What is a monarch? May I ask if you're here to announce the emperor's decree or the empress's decree? Oh yes, there's no empress in Long Yuan country now. How could I be deceiving the emperor? She's just an imperial concubine, after all. She's His Majesty's concubine. Do you think I need to be afraid of a concubine? Wasn't that right? No matter how noble the imperial concubine was, she was still just a concubine. The only person who could be on equal footing with the emperor was the empress. Unfortunately, Long Yuan country had no descendants. Hence, the only person that Master Yun needed to give face to was the emperor. Of course, this was only if the emperor did not anger him. Otherwise, he would not give face to anyone. Mu Wuchen's temper was not bad. Even after being humiliated by Yun Luo, he did not stomp his feet in anger. He took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in his heart. He said coldly, That's right, in an ordinary merchant family, the imperial concubine is just a concubine. Similarly, in such a family, you're just like a servant. No matter how small a concubine is, she's still your master. Now that the master has given an order, you can only obey. Hee, Master Yun laughed coldly and said shamelessly. Anyway, I'll never acknowledge her as my master. If you want to see my granddaughter, you can. Wait here. You'll be able to see her when she's done with her business. This time, without waiting for Mu Wuchen to speak, the guards behind him were enraged. All of them wished they could tear the old man apart with their bare hands. We are here to announce the imperial decree of the imperial consort. Your actions are clearly not putting the imperial consort in your eyes. Eldest young master, according to the general's crime of defying the imperial law, his entire family should be executed. Generally speaking, the dog behind the master was the master's mouth. When the master wanted to fly into a rage but had to maintain his image, the dog would stand up and say what the master wanted to say. Every time this happened, their master would stand up and pretend to be a good person. But they didn't think that without their master's permission, how would the servants have the guts to say such things? Naturally, Master Dongfang was well aware of this. A mocking smile appeared on his elderly face. I only have one thing to say. Either you wait or get lost. I don't care whose decree you're here to deliver. If you want to disturb my granddaughter's work, fine. You have to defeat me first. At this moment, Master Dongfang was like a god of war, standing in front of Mu Wuchen and the others. His words were filled with dominance. The guard was so angry that he wanted to curse but was stopped by Mu Wuchen's hand. All right, I'll wait for her here. Chapter 101. The guest room was simple, elegant, and clean. The fragrance of sandalwood wafted into the air. The young girl put away the silver needles in front of her and raised her head to look at the two people who were waiting for her. The treatment is over. You can ask them about the results. Hearing this, Elder Rong's heart leaped with joy and he hurriedly ran towards the middle-aged man who was sitting upright. Sir, how do you feel? As soon as he asked this question, he could not help but be stunned. The man's originally pale white hair had gradually turned inky black. Even though the change was very small, it still made Elder Rong extremely excited. His entire body trembled slightly. He believed that one day, His Excellency would return to normal. Grandfather. Ning Xian walked to Elder Ning's side and helped him up. She asked with concern, Are you feeling better? Elder Ning smiled and nodded. His gaze turned towards Yun Luofeng and he smiled gently. Little girl, Your acupuncture really made my entire body and mind feel very relaxed. I really don't know how to thank you. If not for Yun Luofeng, he would probably be waiting for death in the Ning family home. I have a prescription here. Go back and get the medicine to brew. Take one every day and come back every 3 days for acupuncture until your body has completely recovered. Yun Luofeng's gaze fell on the pale-faced middle-aged man and he continued, Actually, I can completely remove the poison from the datura flower in one go. But if I do that, his body will not be able to withstand it. So I can only slowly remove the poison from his body. I understand everything. Elder Rong nodded. He was so excited that his speech was somewhat incoherent. Little Yun, I am so grateful to you. You are the savior of the medical pavilion. If you need anything in the future, just come to the medical pavilion and tell me. I will do my best to help. Yun Luofeng slowly curled the corners of her lips and an evil light flashed across her dark eyes. Actually, she had saved this middle-aged man for the sake of the red orchid tree. The second reason was so that the medical pavilion would owe her a favor. If she had any disputes with the royal family in the future, perhaps the people of the medical pavilion could help her once. Treating and saving people really makes people tired easily. Yun Luofeng stretched lazily, turned around and pushed the door open. He said to the people behind him, Please help yourselves. Just as she stepped out of the room, a sharp Yun family guard caught a glimpse of her and quickly walked up to her. He cupped his fists and said, Eldest Miss, Prime Minister Mu's eldest young master has come to announce the imperial consort's decree. Therefore, Lord General has asked this subordinate to wait for you again. Prime Minister Mu's residence? Imperial consort? Elder Rong was stunned when he heard this. Then he sneered, Prime Minister Mu's mansion is really haunting us. He turned towards the middle-aged man who had walked out from behind him, and a respectful look appeared on his elderly face. My lord, Prime Minister Mu's mansion has made things difficult for Yun Lass time and time again. Now that Yun Lass is so important to us, can I go and protect her? Those jackals and wild leopards from the Prime Minister's residence definitely did not come with good intentions. How could he let Yun Luofeng face those people? If he chewed her up until not even her bones were left, where would he go to find another divine doctor? The middle-aged man gently nodded. His voice was extremely weak, but it was much better than when he could not even open his mouth. Hee, Elder Ning chuckled softly. Let's go, I also want to know why those people are looking for Yun Lass. Chapter 102. In the quiet hall, Mu Wuchen's expression was cold and solemn. His eyes were filled with a chilly aura, scaring the servants behind him so much that they did not even dare to breathe loudly. General Yun! Mu Wuchen finally could not stand it any longer and turned towards Yun Luofeng with a cold expression. His voice was filled with obvious anger. I've been waiting here for a few hours. I wonder if you could hurry her up for us? They had been waiting since noon and it was already sunset, but Yun Luofeng had yet to appear. Mu Wuchen could not help but suspect that the old man was doing this on purpose. My granddaughter is not as leisurely as you. If you want to see her, you can only wait. Master Yun leisurely sipped the tea in his hand and raised his eyebrows as he looked at Mu Wuchen, who was gradually becoming impatient. Mu Wuchen's expression became even colder and he could not help but stand up. At this moment, he caught a glimpse of a beautiful young girl who was slowly walking towards him from outside the room. The anger that had already surged out of his body was forcefully suppressed once again. Grandfather. Yun Luofeng did not even look at Mu Wuchen as he walked gracefully towards Master Yun, who was sitting at the tea table. His posture was languid and relaxed and his beautiful face was lit up with a gentle smile. You're looking for me? Master Yun swept a glance at Mu Wuchen, whose face was gradually turning ashen, and sneered. It's not me who's looking for you. It's the Mu family who's using a chicken feather as a token of authority to cause trouble for you. Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows slightly and his black eyes turned towards the cold and arrogant Mu Wuchen. The smile on his lips revealed a trace of evil. Cause trouble for me? That depends on whether these people have the ability to do so. Who in Long Yuan country doesn't know that I, Yun Luofeng, am a hedonistic person, relying on the prestige of the general's residence to act like a tyrant? So, coming to the general's residence to cause trouble for me, I'm afraid they've come to the wrong place. I can immediately get someone to throw them out. Cough cough. Elder Rong, who was following closely behind Yun Luofeng, almost choked on his own saliva when he heard Yun Luofeng's words. He used all his strength to hold back his laughter. Hedonistic person? Taking advantage of one's position to bully others? This was the first time the old man had heard someone say such things about themselves. This girl really could not be judged by common sense. Mu Wuchen snorted coldly. Yun Luofeng, I am here to deliver the imperial consort's decree. Why aren't you kneeling down to receive the decree? After saying this, Mu Wuchen raised his chin high, waiting for this arrogant girl to kneel in front of him. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no movement. Mu Wuchen's brows were tightly furrowed as he glanced impatiently at Yun Luofeng, who was in front of him. Displeasure gradually appeared in his eyes. Yun Luofeng, I told you to kneel. Did you not hear me? At this moment, Yun Luofeng crossed her arms in front of her chest, as she glanced at him with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. After which, her originally devilish smile was replaced with a domineering look. She raised her eyebrows and shouted, Mu Wuchen, you've committed the crime of deceiving the emperor. According to the laws of Long Yuan country, how should you be punished? Mu Wuchen was stunned. He looked at Yun Luofeng in confusion. When did he commit the crime of deceiving the emperor? Only after a long time did he come back to his senses. His expression became increasingly cold. Yun Luofeng, don't you dare frame me here. When did I deceive the emperor? If you have the guts, then give me a reason. Hearing this, Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly. Her arrogant and unruly black eyes once again landed on Mu Wuchen's ashen face. Chapter 103. Mu Wuchen. His Imperial Majesty has personally given me a special order, ordering me not to kneel in front of a member of the imperial family at any time. Even if the imperial consort were to personally come, I would not need to kneel in front of her, much less an imperial edict. Now that you're forcing me to kneel, isn't that a crime of deceiving the emperor? Mu Wuchen's chest was filled with anger, but he could not vent it. He could only clench his fists tightly and force himself to calm down. Yun Luofeng. He took a deep breath and a fierce light flashed across his cold and arrogant eyes. He then said icily, The imperial consort has decreed that you must enter the imperial palace and study with the princess for 3 years. Pack your luggage and leave with me now. Furthermore, the imperial consort has decreed that you are not to leave the imperial palace during the study period. Therefore, you must prepare enough luggage. As for the servant girl. He paused and continued, There are plenty of palace maids in the imperial palace, you don't need to bring one along. These words were like a fuse that thoroughly angered Elder Rong, who had not spoken a word since he had entered the room. His elderly features were filled with rage and his eyes were burning with rage as he stared at Mu Wuchen. He then shouted angrily, Who does the princess think she is? What right does she have to make the Yun girl her servant? Does she really think that she's that delicate? Is she worthy? To put it nicely, a study companion is to accompany the princess in her cultivation and studies. In reality, she is just a servant girl who serves others. Yun Luofeng was a godly physician, and even he did not dare to order her around. In the end, these imperial disciples really think too highly of her. They actually want a godly physician to serve as a servant girl who serves others? Is she worthy? Most importantly, these people want to lock her up in the imperial palace for 3 years. How could this be? By the time 3 years have passed, His Excellency would already be dead. By then, not even 10 lives of the dog emperor would be enough to compensate for her loss. Elder Ning's expression turned cold. In his eyes, Yun Luofeng was a godly physician who was worthy of his respect. Such a godly physician was actually going to serve a princess of the imperial family? If he really allowed Yun Luofeng to go, then he, Elder Ning, would not be able to make a living on this mainland. I'm looking for someone from the general's mansion. It has nothing to do with you. Mu Wuchen glanced at the furious Elder Rong and said coldly, Moreover, the princess is a person of high status. Letting her, the granddaughter of a general, serve the emperor is not a disgrace to her. Now that the old general is old, he won't live for more than a few years. Once the old general dies, she will have nowhere to go. Our imperial consort pitied her and gave her a way out. In Long Yuan country, there weren't many people who had seen Elder Rong. If it wasn't for Jing Lin causing trouble, the number of people who had seen him could be counted on one's fingers. Unfortunately, when Jing Lin caused trouble, Mu Wuchen was not in the medical pavilion. So, of course, He did not expect that the old man in front of him was someone that the people of the imperial family wanted to curry favor with. Las. Elder Ning didn't have Elder Rong's happy or angry expression. He calmly turned his head to look at Yun Luofeng and calmly said, "This matter is up to you to decide. If you don't want to go to the imperial palace and become the study companion of that princess, I, Elder Ning, will support you unconditionally. For the next few days, I will let my granddaughter stay in your mansion. With her around, no one will be able to force you." Although Yun Luofeng didn't know Elder Ning's identity, there was no doubt that his actions warmed her heart. She smiled at the two elders behind her. "Don't worry. If I, Yun Luofeng, don't want to do something, no one can force me to do it." Her words were arrogant and domineering, unruly and unruly. It was obvious that she didn't place Mu Wuchen in her eyes at all. Chapter 104. In the hall, following Yun Luofeng's words, the hall suddenly quietened down. Mu Wuchen clenched his fists tightly and suddenly stood up. His cold and arrogant eyes fell on Yun Luofeng's evil and beautiful face. His face was as cold as frost, cold to the bone. "Yun Luofeng, don't be so ungrateful. What kind of honor is it to be a study companion of the princess? It's a blessing that the ministers of Long Yuan country can't even ask for. But the imperial concubine is kind enough to support you, yet you're so presumptuous. Now I only have one sentence. The imperial concubine's decree cannot be disobeyed. You must enter the palace to study with the princess." His words were incomparably tough, as if he wanted to snatch Yun Luofeng away if Yun Luofeng refused. "Since you think it's an honor to be a maid of the princess, why don't you let Mu Wushuang be the study companion of the princess?" Yun Luofeng yawned lazily. There was a trace of a smile in his demonic eyes as he raised his lips and looked at Mu Wuchen's increasingly ashen face. "Presumptuous!" Mu Wuchen coldly shouted, his eyes flashed fiercely. "Yun Luofeng, what kind of identity is Wushuang? She's talented and beautiful, and is the future crown princess. I don't know where you, a waste, have the courage to compare with her?" "That's right. Being the study companion of the princess is an honor for the ministers, but among these people, Wushuang is not included." Mu Wuchen still had a sentence that he didn't say. How outstanding was Wushuang? She's just a princess. How could she be qualified to be a study companion? His Wushuang is the future mother of the country. Her status is far above the princess. As for this Yun Luofeng, she's just a waste, giving her the opportunity to be the study companion of the princess, but she didn't cherish it. How could there be such a stupid person in the world? Of course, Mu Wushuang and Mu Xingqiu's plan was not told to Mu Wuchen. With Mu Wuchen's arrogance, he would definitely scoff at their conspiracy. Therefore, he still couldn't understand why his aunt would let a waste be the study companion of the princess. Wasn't she afraid that he would bury the princess? Yun Luofeng squinted at Mu Wuchen's cold face. His lips curled up. "Do you want to get out yourself, or do you want me to throw you out?" Yun Luofeng. Mu Wuchen clenched his fists angrily, and the blue veins on his forehead bulged. "Do you really want to defy the imperial decree?" Yun Luofeng raised his eyebrows. "If I didn't guess wrong, the matter of the princess's study companion should have been decided by her on her own. The emperor didn't know about it. Go into the palace now and ask the emperor. Is the son of a meritorious official only fit to be the study companion of a princess? I wonder if he has the face to force me into the palace." From the fact that the dog emperor had sent Yi Ling to harm the general's residence, Yun Luofeng could see that the current emperor would not shed all pretense of cordiality with the general's residence. Moreover, the dog emperor had planned to use Yi Ling to harm her. How could he allow her to enter the palace at this time? From this aspect, she could see that imperial concubine Mu had made the decision on her own. The dog emperor must not have known about it. "All right." Mu Wuchen's eyes darkened. He coldly snorted and said, "Yun Luofeng, you missed an opportunity to be promoted. Don't regret it in the end. At that time, even if you cry and shout that you want to be the princess study companion, no one will care about you. Let's go." He fiercely flung his sleeves and angrily turned to leave. Looking at his hurried pace, one could feel the anger in Mu Wuchen's heart. "So the people of the imperial family are also self-righteous," Elder Rong coldly smiled. "Little Yun, it seems that you can handle today's matter by yourself. If so, this old man will not interfere. If you need anything in the future, go to the medical pavilion and let me know. I will do my best to help." Chapter 105. Elder Ning was not as angry as Elder Rong. He only turned to look at Yun Luofeng and said calmly, "Girl, there's something I need to tell you. Originally, only people of our level would know about this. Now that you and the Imperial family are almost on opposite sides, for your safety, I have to tell you about this." Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow and looked at Elder Ning. The smile on her lips carried a hint of laziness. "Please speak, Elder Ning." Elder Ning paused for a moment. "Your Long Yuan country's #1 expert is a high spiritualist. Do you know where this expert came from?" Yun Luofeng shook her head. Indeed, based on her current status, she did not have the right to know about this. That expert comes from the power behind the Imperial family. Elder Ning's eyes darkened for a moment before he continued. Every Imperial family has a power behind them. However, under normal circumstances, as long as the Imperial family is not facing a calamity, the power behind them will not make a move. They will only send an expert to guard the Imperial family. This is why the powers behind them have not made a move even though the countries have been at war for so many years. This is because the powers behind them have already made an agreement. Yun Luofeng fell silent. After a long while, she raised her pitch-black eyes and looked straight at Elder Ning. "According to what you've said, a dynasty will definitely be passed down forever. However, for thousands of years, it's not as if the change of dynasties has never happened. Did the people of those factions not stop it?" Elder Ning chuckled and explained patiently. "That's right, there have indeed been changes of dynasties. However, over the past thousands of years, this has only happened a few times. These few times, it was only because the current emperor had angered the powerful cultivator behind him. Hence, the change of dynasties happened." What he meant was that the previous changes of dynasties were all because the emperor had offended the power behind him. Hence, the power behind them had sent people to usurp the throne. Yun Luofeng did not expect the Imperial family to have a powerful power behind them. As such, she had to be even more cautious in her actions. "Girl, you don't have to be too nervous. As long as the Imperial family is not destroyed, the people from that power will not casually appear. Even if you accidentally provoke the people from that power, my Ning family will not let them touch you." Elder Ning smiled faintly and said indifferently, "Grandfather." Ning Xian stared at her grandfather's calm features and smiled gently. "I feel that Xiaofeng and I hit it off very well, so I'd like to stay with the Yun family for a while longer." "Xiaofeng, I wonder if you'd welcome me to stay?" She turned her head and blinked at Yun Luofeng. A gentle and beautiful smile appeared on her beautiful and dignified face. 2 days ago, Ning Xian had called Yun Luofeng Miss Yun. Now, she was calling her Little Feng. Her intentions were clear. No matter what happened, his Ning family would definitely stand by her side. "All right," Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly, his pitch-black eyes filled with mirth. "You can stay in my Yun family for as long as you want." From the very beginning, Yun Luofeng had a very good impression of this granddaughter of the Ning family. Now that they had clearly chosen a side, if she still did not accept them, she would not be able to differentiate good from bad. "Ha ha!" Elder Ning laughed heartily and turned towards General Yun Luo. His elderly features glowed with radiance as he said, "General Yun Luo, I'm very envious of you to have such an outstanding granddaughter." How enviable. Chapter 106. Master Yun was used to seeing where the wind blew. Upon hearing Elder Ning's words, he hurriedly glared at Yun Luofeng. "You little girl, what are you waiting for? Didn't you hear that Elder Ning wants to take you in as his granddaughter? Hurry up and greet Grandfather Ning." The old man had long seen that Elder Ning's identity was not simple. If Yun Luofeng had such a person to protect her, even if he passed away one day, she would not have to worry about being alone and without anyone to protect her. However, upon hearing this, Elder Ning was instantly dumbfounded. Yun Luofeng was also stunned. Both pairs of eyes turned to look at Master Yun, causing him to feel a little embarrassed. "Ahem," Master Yun coughed awkwardly. "Elder Ning, didn't you say that you envy me for having such a granddaughter? That's why I thought of this idea, to let her become your adopted granddaughter. This way, you don't have to envy me anymore." Elder Ning laughed out loud, his calm eyes filled with a smile as he turned to Yun Luofeng. "Regarding this matter, I naturally have no objections. I wonder what little Yun will choose?" Yun Luofeng shrugged her shoulders helplessly. "I'll listen to my old man." How could she choose? Her old man had already given the order. How could she dare to disobey? Most importantly, Yun Luofeng knew that the old man had made this decision out of consideration for her. He was afraid that one day when he passed away, there would be no one on this mainland who would wholeheartedly protect her. For this, he did not hesitate to throw away his old face. I'm so envious of you. Elder Rong looked at Elder Ning in jealousy. Although little Yun's abilities aren't great and she's only an advanced nascent spiritualist now, her medical skills are brilliant. You've really made a fortune by picking up a granddaughter like her. Just as Elder Rong's envious voice fell, an exaggerated cry suddenly sounded from the side, causing him to jump in fright. What? Master Yun's eyes widened as he looked at Yun Luofeng in disbelief. After checking out this little girl's abilities, his eyes were filled with astonishment. You've broken through to a beginner spirit warrior? Elder Ning and Elder Rong looked at each other in dismay. Even in the Long Yuan nation, a high-level elementary spirit realm was nothing much. So why was the old man so shocked? It was as if Yun Luofeng being able to reach the high-level elementary spirit realm was an extremely inconceivable matter. Elder Rong kept quiet for some time and stared at Yun Luofeng as if he was deep in thought. I heard that Yun Luofeng from the Yun family is a good-for-nothing who can't cultivate. How did you become an advanced rudimentary spiritualist? Yun Luofeng lazily leaned against the wall. He gently raised his eyebrows and charmingly said, I was just lucky enough to be accepted as a disciple by an expert. He helped me change my constitution and allowed me to cultivate. However, I don't want anyone to know about this. Elder Ning thought for a moment and asked, Lass, when did you improve your physique? Yun Luofeng gently stroked his chin, his voice a little indistinct. It seems like it's been a while? The corner of Elder Ning's mouth twitched slightly. How long is a period of time? Lass, can you give me an accurate number? Probably. Yun Luofeng thought for a moment and his tone was a little uncertain. A month. It seemed like she had cultivated for less than a month. And a month ago, she was still a good-for-nothing who was ridiculed by everyone. A month. Hiss. Elder Rong could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. It took a long time for him to recover from this shocking news. When he looked at Elder Ning, both of their eyes were filled with shock. Chapter 107. In just 1 month, she went from a waste to a high-level elementary spirit practitioner? She achieved a goal that would take others a year to achieve? This kind of talent. How shocking was it? I remember that Mu Wuxuan of the Mu clan spent more than 2 years to break through to the high-level elementary spirit practitioner. But this kind of talent was praised by the ignorant people of Long Yuan country. Elder Rong shook his head and smiled bitterly. If this Yun girl's talent were to spread, where would Mu Wuxuan put his face? Girl, do you really not want to wash away the name of waste? Then give Mu Wuxuan a hard slap in the face? Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips in a demonic yet charming manner. His pitch-black eyes shone with a bright light. Elder Rong, you should know the current situation of our Yun family. Before I have enough power, I can only be a good-for-nothing. Only then will the imperial family not fear me. Anyway, over the years, I've gotten used to being ridiculed. Elder Rong was startled. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by the girl's lazy voice. I, Yun Luofeng, never like to rely on other people's power. No matter how much hatred I have, I want to rely on my own ability to take revenge. The royal family, Mu clan, sooner or later, I will make them pay with their blood. So, I'm not in a hurry. Elder Ning smiled bitterly and shook his head, looking at Yun Luofeng with more admiration. Girl, if you want to be a waste, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. The people you meet now are not very strong. If you meet the royal family's master, he will be able to see your strength at a glance. Therefore, I have a space ring here, as a gift for recognizing you as my granddaughter. You must keep it well. Ning Xian saw her grandfather take out the bronze ring. Her beautiful eyes flashed with surprise. However, she didn't say anything and stood quietly beside Elder Ning. Ning Xian saw her grandfather take out the bronze ring. Her beautiful eyes flashed with surprise. However, she didn't say anything and stood quietly beside Elder Ning. Moreover, as long as Yun Luofeng wore the ring outside, the Ning clan must obey unconditionally. Thank you, Grandpa Ning. Looking at Elder Ning's expectant eyes, Yun Luofeng didn't refuse his kindness. She took the ring and wore it on her finger. Girl, other than being able to store things, this ring can also suppress your presence. Therefore, Even the experts of the royal family will not be able to detect your presence when you are outside. You can be at ease. Yun Luofeng's heart skipped a beat. She never thought that the spatial ring Elder Ning had given her would be so precious. This was a huge favor that he owed. You've beaten me to it again. Elder Roan glanced at Elder Ning and said sourly, "This won't do. I'll have to discuss with Sir later on what gift to give this little girl. I can't lag behind you in this matter." Elder Ning chuckled. "I'm her grandfather. It's only right for me to give her a gift. I wonder in what capacity are you giving her a gift?" These two old men always want to fight over everything. At a time like this, how could Elder Ning not laugh at him? "You've beaten me to recognizing my granddaughter, but I still have a grandson." Elder Rong snorted and turned to look at Yun Luofeng. His elderly face lit up with a smile and his tone was filled with flattery. "Little girl, my grandson is much stronger than the crown prince, Gao Ling. Whether it's looks, strength or temperament, Gao Ling can't compare to him. So if you marry my grandson, I'll let you take my grandson around Gao Ling and Mu Wushuang and piss those two sluts off." Chapter 108. In order to curry favor with Yun Luofeng, Elder Rong had even used the word slut. One could imagine how Gao Ling and Mu Wushuan felt to him. "Elder Rong, how old is this girl? Aren't you harming her by doing this?" Elder Ning glanced at Elder Rong and said with a smile, "Besides, the younger generation of the Ning family is not bad. As long as this girl is willing, she can choose any husband in the Ning family." At this moment, Master Rong was completely dumbfounded. These two old men are actually discussing the fate of his granddaughter as if no one else was around? No. Absolutely not. I still want to keep this girl for a few more years. How can I allow her to get married now? Before Master Rong could stop them, the girl's voice slowly rang out in the hall. It was languid and demonic, but carried a sense of helplessness. "Gentlemen, I'm only 14 years old. What you're doing is kidnapping a minor." The two old men were stunned. Only then did they suddenly remember Yun Luofeng's existence. When they remembered that they had just discussed this matter in front of this little girl, they could not help but feel a little embarrassed. "Ahem." Elder Rong coughed drily and turned towards Elder Ning. "This girl is right. She's still too young. How can she withstand the torment of those stinky brats? Elder Ning, why don't we make a bet to see which family's brat can move this girl's heart? The loser will have to serve the other for 3 years." "All right." Elder Ning calmly slapped the table and agreed decisively. "I'll make this bet with you. I have great confidence in my family's brats. Besides, with Xian'er's help, you'll get twice the result with half the effort." Ning Xian rubbed her forehead in exasperation. She really wanted to say that she did not know this old man. Besides, it's fine if he makes a bet, but why does he have to drag me down with him? Ning Xian's gaze involuntarily swept towards Yun Luofeng at the thought of this. She saw the young girl crossing her arms and smiling as if she did not mind the two old men making a bet with her. "It's getting late, little girl. We won't disturb you any longer." Elder Ning no longer looked at Elder Rong. He turned away and smiled calmly. "Xian, let's go. We'll go back to the inn to rest. I'm old and my energy will run out." "Yes, grandfather." Ning Xian supported Elder Ning as they walked out of the door. When she reached Yun Luofeng's side, she raised a beautiful smile at him, winked lightly, and laughed silently, then supported Elder Ning as they walked out the door. In the inner courtyard of the Imperial Palace, among the tall buildings. At this moment, in the splendid brocade palace, Imperial concubine Mu was lazily lying on the chaise longue. She was surrounded by several eunuchs and palace maids who were waiting for her to demolish the palace. At this moment, a eunuch hurriedly ran in from outside the door. With a flick of the horsetail whisk in his hand, he raised his voice and reporting to Imperial concubine, young Master Mu has come to seek an audience. Imperial concubine Mu raised her eyebrows. The cinnabar mole between her eyebrows was extremely alluring. She slowly sat up from the chaise longue and said faintly, "Let him in." It had been a long time since Mu Wuchen went to the Prime Minister's residence to announce the edict. Now, he must have brought that little slut Yun Luofeng to reply to the edict. That little bitch had schemed to frame Wushuang. This time, she must vent her anger for Wushuang. From beginning to end, Imperial concubine Mu had never thought that Yun Luofeng would disobey the edict. After all, with such a good opportunity in front of her, A smart person would definitely use this opportunity to climb up. Moreover, with Yun Luofeng's useless physique, if she did not find another way out, once the general died, she would not be able to survive.